profesh. I know that I can trust you, friends, to mind your P's and Q's. Let's keep things tight and sensible together, me and you. Hey, shorties, don't be too naughty, and I will try my best. Hey, shorties, we've got this, y'all. Tonight will be profesh. We can refrain from feral stuff for an hour or two and show our guests esteemed respect. No, I can count on you. Hey, shorties, don't be too naughty, and I will try my best. Hey, shorties, we've got this, y'all. Tonight will be perfect. So here we go, we've got this, y'all. We'll do more than just fine. We'll represent Camp Shorty well. This is our time to shine. Hey, shorties! Now say hi. Now say hi.
Hey, shorties. Hello. Hello, hello. Simi says, great new song, Lisa. Thank you, Simi. That's our we have a guest. We can't really cuss, even though I think our special guest tonight is fine with the cussing. But when it's Joe Takapina, we're like, oh, yikes. The intro's a little bit awkward. Speaking of awkward, background there, Mr. Bryan Kohberger. We're here to talk about that. Who is here? Micah, hi. Princey, hi. Pammy, wait. Hi. Hey, guess what I did, chat? I've got my second monitor up and running. It's big. It's right here. I've got my tabs there. I can see the chat the whole time now. And the dogs are crunching their pigsies already. It's so exciting. Hi, what the fuck? Good to see you, girl. Kilmy Maguire, hi. Smarter Hari saying hi. Salty's backstage. Debbie Blair's here. Pokemon. Shelley says, do the things. Change to live chat. Like it. Share it out. Simi, that's okay. It's all right. Hey, I've even embiggened my my font so I'm not peering at the screen. I can actually see what you're saying. So many things. So many exciting things. Forrest is here. I saw Forrest. Hi, Forrest. Who else? Carrie. Hi, Carrie. Maiden. Hi, girl. Did I say hi, Princey? Hi, Princey. Hi, Akasha. Lady Di. Hi. Lady Di too. Apologies, ma'am. Anya. Hi. Goodness. I don't want to miss anybody. If I've missed you, I'm so sorry. I think we're good. Forrest, hi. Yes. Princey Shelley, yes. Hi, chat. So I'm not sure if you've all been so deeply embroiled in the Laurie Vallow Daybell shit show. Well, I mean, she's actually doing quite well. To have not spent the 9 or so hours required to watch the Bryan Kohberger pre-trial motions hearing, the epic thing that it was. Hi, Buster. Just the other day. Thank you. I'm proud of me too. I'm like, I can do this, man. I can do this second monitor thing. And it was like Friday afternoon. Hi, Mary Flynn. I missed you. Hello. Shandwan. Hi, Shandwan. I missed you also. And look what I get for my woes. Thank you for gifting out 5, babe. So while I think of it, Shunned One sent me an amazing box of goodies in the mail, gifts, and I've opened them all per Shunned One's suggestion and request, but we have one top secret box yet to open, and we'll do that in this live stream. Just one live tonight, because Salty and I don't really want to have to curtail our conversation at all. We've got a lot to go through. We're not going to go through the whole 9 hours. Lord, if you want to watch the whole 9 hours, Salty Sleuth Investigates did cover that whole pre-trial motions hearing in Idaho for Bryan Kohberger during the week. We're going to do a few highlights, talk about, for me in particular, did I see Tommy CPU? Oh, Tommy CPU got one of the memberships. And Mary Flynn. That's awesome. When you're in chat and you get a gifted membership, that's amazing. Love 1010. Plenty of cool members only emotes in the chat. Go for it. So there was 3 particular motions during the week regarding Bryan Kohberger's autism diagnosis. I just can't stand even the word autism. I'm all about autistic, being autistic. But anyway, don't even start me on ASD. Salty and I can talk about all of that. There was also an interesting piece on a motion on Cy Ray and his timing advance records. I think Salty is pretty keen to talk about that. And then a little something about Amazon made me do it. The AI put those things in Bryan Kohberger's cart. Yikes. Shall I stop talking? Hi, Gigi. Good to see you. And bring on our special guest, Ms. Salty Sleuth. I miss you too, Mary. Hi, NR. You got gifted a membership last weekend. Holly's here. Wait, there's so many hellos I got to do. How can I miss Holly? Don't forget all super chats, super stickers, gifted memberships, new memberships, buy me a coffee, PayPal, Cash App. Go in the draw for next weekend's merch draw. We'll do last weekend's draw tomorrow night in Camp Shorty during our top 10 villains and idiots moments from the Karen Reid trial version 1. Sidebah. Trial starts Tuesday. As per Aiden Carney, let's fuck. No more talking, no more swearing, no, lots of swearing. Ma'am, Salty, it's good to see you. Wait, you're not on the screen though. Wait. I've got a different format here. There. Hi.
Hello. It's so good to be here.
It's great to have you back in Camp Shorty 2 weeks in a row, ma'am.
Oh, yeah, I know, right? It's so nice. Hello, chat. I see a lot of familiar faces out there, so thanks for tuning in, guys. Did you just say they've got a start date for Karen's trial?
Game on, baby. Tuesday. Tuesday. Per Aiden.
Oh, wow.
And yes, and so we are talking on Sunday, right? You and I and
yeah, that's what I wanted to do. Right? Yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So we're going to talk on Salty's channel about Karen Reid, and that's helpful given that trials now definitely starting Tuesday. Aiden Carney said Tuesday. Akasha, hi Akasha.
Yeah, I saw they had like one juror left to be seated. That was yesterday or the day before. I can't remember now, but I haven't checked today for an update. So
well, I furiously looked all over Twitter, and I don't do much twittering. It's not my place. Anyway, but I thought Aiden will know, Turtle Boy will know. So I went to his page, Twitter, X, and scrolled through a lot of other stuff, and there buried was the jury's been picked. Trial starts Tuesday. Let's fuck. Or time to fuck. He said time to fuck.
Time to fuck.
So and also so stay tuned, chat and replay crew, for the time, but it'll likely be 11 Central your time, Salty, on Sunday that we'll talk.
If that's still good for you, we can go a little later if you need to now.
No, that's better for me because I can get up early-ish and still have enough time to talk for a few hours and then get to work Monday. Okay. So love. And also, before we move off from Karen Reid, I have 10 days off start in your your Thursday night, my Friday for Easter, and
Mhm.
we have another holiday the week after. So my workplace is dark for 10 days. Couldn't be better timing. I'll be doing nightly
Right?
recaps of Karen Reed stuff, probably 8 or 9 Eastern for those 10 nights. So 10 nights of
Oh,
Shorty
that'd be
Karen
something
Reed
to look forward
exclusive.
to.
Yes.
Yeah, that'd be
So
great. That'd be great.
yes, it couldn't be better timing. Last year it was my birthday when the verdict didn't never come, mistrial, but it
Yeah.
didn't happen on my birthday. But yeah. So let's bring it into a topic reminder. You and I spent all day with you, whatever day it was.
Yeah.
It was a long day
The
in
ninth.
court.
That's all I remember. The ninth. It was April 9th. Don't ask me which day that was.
A
Tuesday, I
day.
believe.
What is
Don't
time?
even know. Right?
And it was quite the interesting. It was slated for 2 days, and then Judge Cohen managed to snap through 27 motions in the one day. Not all of them ruled upon. Some aren't taken under advisement.
Yes. Because
But yes,
yeah, some of those
go on.
motions weren't going to go anywhere to begin with, and could just easily be talked about and gotten out of the way. And there were the more serious ones came up, But yeah, he wasn't playing around. He wasn't trying to do a 2-day hearing over all that.
Oh, Hippler, Cohen's in. What's sorry, Cohen?
Oh,
My
that's right.
Cohen.
Yeah.
Cohen was Monica Cemetelli, which
Mm.
Sidebah, guilty. Chats guilty on all counts. Goodbye,
Oh,
Monica
okay.
Cemetelli. Yes,
Well,
jury
yeah,
ready for
I
it.
didn't watch that trial.
It's a marathon, but well, if you ever, this is a pointless thing to say to you, Salty, because you're always busy. But if you ever have, I don't know, 3 weeks spare to watch 2 months of a trial, it's probably the best trial I've ever watched, if that's the right verbiage, right,
Right.
Micah? No emotion. So that was Judge Cohen. Sorry, yes, Hippler. Hippler is amazing. He is a lot better, I think, a lot more succinct and no nonsense than the
Mhm.
former
Judge.
Judge.
And at first I was trying to gauge Judge, and at first I liked him, but I thought, is he really just thinking about the law, because he kept inviting Ann Taylor to bring me the argument, that I can rule under the law, and that seemed to be their contention between the two of them. Then it shifted and felt like he didn't want to make any mistakes with Anne because she was so pushy, because he doesn't want to be the one this comes back on when it goes up for appeal or anything like that, right? So maybe he was in a little over his head. Plus, he had one foot out the door for retirement. He probably had enough of all that. He's like, you want your change of venue? You got it. Go ahead. But careful what you
Yes,
wish for sometimes, which I'm glad they did it because it is moving along now to where it wasn't.
and he knows the case
He
better than
does.
any judge I have ever seen before. It's 68. So I wish it was 69 terabytes of data, and in the discovery, and he knows it all intimately, which is so impressive. So impressive.
It really, I was really impressed with that too, because I thought, man, he's actually reading everything, because he could, like you said, right off the top of his head, he could bring it up and quote it, and I thought, well, goodness, like even when he asked them, the defense, have you seen what they have? I'm like, oh, you know, have you seen it,
Lady
Ann?
Lady Di says, oh my God, he does not. No, he does not. He thinks he does, but I have all the documents and he does not. He knows it better than Judge, and he knows it better than most judges I've ever seen before, who aren't uh, nearly as familiar and pulling things up from mentally. I
From
think he may
memory
well
like
have,
that.
yes, I think he
Hmm.
may well have a somewhat of a photographic memory. He seems to
Yeah.
close his eyes and do a recall on things. So, I mean, given that he's newish to the case, and also
He played catch up real quick. Yeah, because
exactly. So,
we've got all the
accordingly,
documents. Yeah, I've got a straight line in my Discord to all the documents. I base what I talk about out of the documents. I mean, of course, we can speculate and theorize, but it comes out of what I see in documents. Anything the judge said, sounded right from what I recall reading in the documents, you know.
Yes, he may have some of the real the finer details, the minutia not quite right, but overall compared to, I mean, shall we compare to Auntie Bev? No, we shouldn't. But
Right.
Also, just want
Well,
to stop for a minute and say sorry.
Go
Just
ahead.
but thank you, Forrest. Thank you, Forrest, for your paying it forward the way you do. We like you.
Hmm.
Thank you. $10 and wait. And let me just. I'm not going to
Forrest
do
is amazing. Thank you, Micah. That's sweet,
and
Micah.
Micah. Yes, Micah. So we'll just do one cha-ching because it feels a little sacrilegious when we're talking about some pretty heavy stuff today.
Yeah,
I mean, we can talk about whatever, but
I understand.
we're more going to cover the motions hearings. Oh, and Mary, sorry, I missed yours. Thank you so much, Mary and Micah. $9.69. Love your work, Micah. Everyone gets the cha-ching, and Mary Flynn. Right now, so during because I was there with you in chat while you were covering the day on the 9th, whichever day that was this week, and your chat, me included, were quite outraged by some of the arguments being put forward with regards to the ASD,
Hmm.
his autistic status. I just prefer autistic. This is a personal preference. I don't like have autism and I don't like ASD. I just prefer, because I am autistic, I prefer to say it that way, but that's a personal
Hmm.
preference. And I think we had a small intimate group there in your chat, but there was a general consensus that people were kind of not thrilled with. Well, let me speak. Not thrilled with the way it was Ann Taylor, and then what's the other? Is it Ashley? Is that her name?
Ashley
Um,
Jennings is for the prosecution. You got Becca
who's
Barlow.
yes. Um, it
There's
just
two
it
other,
felt.
yeah, there's two other attorneys over there. There's Becca Barlow, she's the DNA, and Alyssa Massoff, that's who you're thinking of as the other attorney. Yeah.
Yes. So thank you, because I'm not familiar with those details anywhere near as you are. So let me just say hi, Zach. Hi, Joe Schmoe. Good to see you, sir. And if I miss anybody else, I'm sorry. We'll get to you. So, Salty, I spoke to you backstage, and I mentioned I've got on my second monitor some, because I don't know how many people have had a chance to actually watch. It was a big day.
Yeah.
So we've got those things. Let me see if I could do this. Shall we start with the very first? So there was 3 motions regarding his ASD. Hi, Midnight Mike. Good to see you. And so the first one happened about an hour and 19 into the day's proceedings per Law and Crime. I also watched the whole thing again with on replay with Emily D. Baker, just to get her
Did you?
legal assessment.
Well, I haven't watched her yet, but my good friend Dolphin, who co-hosts a lot with me on the Kohberger stuff, I know she's watched it already, and I have not
Yeah,
had a chance to. I enjoy Emily's show, so I like her take on things as well. It's just no nonsense and no bullshit. You know what I mean? So and plus she's like us, she cusses.
she cusses, and she's. I was mostly interested to see whether she was as personally
Dug
offended
in, yeah.
by the stuff about his autistic status. She wasn't, but that makes sense because she's,
Being the
sh
defense attorney, yeah, because she's
yeah,
coming at it with that lens, and it's never. I never get the feeling from her I'm getting emotions into play. Like with some cases, I feel like some attorneys that cover the cases kind of dig in with their feeling. I don't. That kind of blurs the lines a little bit, you know. So I enjoy Emily's take on things, but I have not watched the Kohberger. I haven't watched any actually attorneys give their take on the trial on the hearing yet.
so she's fantastic.
She is.
She's ex prosecution and a former prosecutor, and but never, she calls it as she sees it. So
Yes.
let's just start with,
Mhm.
so we can pause. Let me know whenever you want to
Okay.
pause. I'm tripping myself out here with these two screens, but look at me go. I'm like a real
But
YouTuber
I'm
now.
loving it because I'm like, now I'm gonna have to get one. So I'm like, I'm like you, and I'm like, what am I gonna do if I do get one? But now I can probably manage it.
And
Maybe.
also, it's just great because now, like, it's just less fuck around with tabs and stuff in and out of
Yeah.
screens. So, love 1010. Here we go. Let me see. Am I good? Yes. Did I press play? No. Yikes. How fast have I got it on though? 1.5. Slow that shit down. Not me. Copy
in
please.
due course.
1.1 maybe. Let's see. And I'll do closed captions. Yes. And they're even white today. Fantastic. Poppy, goddamn. Please don't. It's really annoying. I love you, but it's annoying.
All right, let's talk about
Oh, there it is. Poppy, gosh.
the defendant's motion regarding conditions as an aggravator, and this is the concern about using the defendant's alleged autism disorder diagnosis as a
Pause.
aggravator during the penalty phase of the trial.
So, wait a second. Hold up, man. Pull up,
there is.
Twitch. Chat. I know there's quite a few of my community, Shorties, who are either self-diagnosed, formally diagnosed, late diagnosed, either neurodivergent or specifically autistic. Uh, we're going to have a little bit of chill on some of the verbiage used in this. And this suggests, just in terms, I don't know, they're kind of fumbling for the best way to say things, and
Yeah.
I don't think they often hit the mark. And
They don't
straight
get
off
it
the
right,
top,
do they?
well, and I don't know. I think I know personally, like, to be autistic is not to be disordered. It's just a different
Right.
brain, a different neurotype.
Right.
So I know it's, and I've actually linked in the description box chat and replay crew also, the DSM-5 criteria for diagnosing autism.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yes, and Shelley says right here now, she says it's Autism Awareness Month, so it's time to learn.
That's
Exactly.
right.
Um,
Thank you,
but
Shelley.
if
Always on
anybody
it.
is interested, yes, and if anybody is interested to see the criteria, it is linked in the description box of this live. So go for it.
Awesome.
So,
Yeah, I'm
yes,
gonna read that later. I'm definitely gonna take a look
yes,
at that because I'm so
yes.
curious about it because I don't like the way they described it. If it's not it, but hit Bryan Kohberger's condition, the way they were describing him, just was off-putting.
I think here's the thing. I think people tiptoe around it. People being society, not just
Yeah.
attorneys in the court, because it's still sadly kind of stigmatized
Mm-hmm.
and seen as an insult, or due to it being called ASD, autism spectrum disorder, a disordered state of mind. And I mean, I'm not saying that it's to be autistic doesn't have its challenges in life, and I'm certainly not going to be spruiking the superpower side of things, although we definitely, us autistic folk definitely have our superpowers, but so does everybody. That's just being a
Yeah.
human, right? um
Right.
so I think that it's tricky for them. uh Motion to scream what the fuck says, oh my goodness, here we go. I do think at one point they mentioned that ASD isn't how it's preferred to be called, but that is what the legal name. I appreciated that. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. It's just like kind of like, and some, I mean, some, for goodness sake, some people still happily use the diagnostic, now very outdated, name of Asperger's, which is just, it's a no-no, because Asperger's, although it used to describe a particular, the more again, high functioning, the more precocious, the early speakers, the advanced readers, the
Yeah.
more the better maskers, you know, the ones who are more socially adept, me being included. And I'm it's so hard to because you've met one autistic person and all you've met is one autistic person. There's
Right.
no this is autistic folk, right?
Exactly. And that's part of what got me with the hearing, because I think his attorneys need to be super careful about the way they go about several things they're trying to go after, right? And it was just that generalization when I don't know enough about the condition, but I know it affects everybody differently, right? It's not a cookie cutter diagnosis. It doesn't mean you're each and everyone going to have the same exact issues or
Correct.
will arise, right?
Correct. Asperger's is now outdated. It's no longer included in the DSM-5. Sorry, it's not included in the DSM-5 at all. The offensiveness of the term Asperger's comes from the fact that Dr. Asperger was a Nazi sympathizer doing tests on the on the on the Jews back in the day. So and did have some revelation sort of insight, revelatory insights into the early understanding of autistic folk, but no. And it's just one term, ASD, or autism spectrum disorder is just one thing, and then they have levels within that, and nobody's the same, right? No cookie cutter.
Right.
Anyway, I had to say that because we're doing a bit on this, so I sort of skip around the phraseology because in certain sentences there's no way to, like, even in my description I was like, had to say autism. I just don't know why I can't. I don't know why. It's not something you pick up and put down. It's just a different neurotype. So
yeah.
Thank you, Judge. You summarized exactly where I was going to start. This motion is brought in case there is a penalty phase. If there is a penalty phase, Mr. Kohberger has a right to present mitigation evidence. That is State versus Payne, and Roper versus Simmons tells us that mitigation evidence cannot be used as aggravating evidence. This is something that we talked about several months ago when we had our motion to strike the death penalty and ask for trifurcation with the death penalty, and that was denied. But we're bringing it back up because it's really important to make a distinction between things that exist in this case. Mr. Kohberger's autism, something that he didn't ask for. It's a condition that he has.
Thank you, Mike.
And it'll need to be addressed, but also
Basta.
to prevent the state from using his characteristics of autism as aggravating evidence against him. The state has, and the court has, our expert
Salty, let me know
analysis from
if
Dr.
you want me
Moore
to
that
pause.
talks about how autism manifests
Okay.
in Bryan, the things that people might see. And these are things that
You
we've
know,
read a little bit about in the media over the course of the case.
okay.
Yes.
The one thing that, because right here she had just got done stating that his traits, that she didn't want the state to use those as aggravators. The state doesn't plan to use them as aggravators to begin with. She's the one that brought this whole thing up, not the state. But she wants to be okay with being able to walk in there and say to the jurors, he has autism. This is why you're going to find him peculiar. And I just don't know if I agree with that, buy it. Do you know what I mean? I feel like it's being used almost, the diagnosis itself. And I feel some kind of way about that. I mean, I understand if you have legit social issues, because she said he had a blank stare, he could sit for hours and focus and just stare at things, he'll rock in his chair, and the judge is like, well, we've been here for 7 hours and I haven't seen any of that behavior.
No,
But she
in
wants
fact,
to point all that out to the jurors, so his lack of emotion, that she can explain that up front.
right.
And I don't know if I agree with that.
But defendant, and it's a moot point really anyway, because defendants
Mhm.
are advised by counsel to not show any emotion either way.
Exactly.
I mean, so Karen Reed is sort of an exception to the rule. She's
She's
quite
the
expressive.
exception. She's very animated.
And also, I mean, Monica Cementilli was also rather animated in her faux, like no, shaking her head like, very much playing up the dramatics of her
Yeah,
supposed
but
innocence.
you're right.
Temporary.
They're instructed to sit there and not react, not to laugh, not to make a face, not to show any emotion whatsoever. They prep their clients for that. They prep witnesses for the same thing. The gallery is told no outbursts, no laughing, no this, no that. It's the same thing. People made all those comments about Casey Anthony sitting there looking very stoic, no feelings, all the things. She was literally coached for months to sit there just like that. And she's not the only
Mhm,
defendant. They all get told to do the same thing. So I'm
mhm,
with you. He's already going to be told to sit there and do nothing. So why do we need
mhm.
to tell the jurors? Because Anne's planting that idea at that point, not the state,
No,
especially if you
and
want them to know going into the trial.
absolutely. And Lady Di too makes a great point, and this is what comes out in argument here is, yes, but we all know how the media and internet has already portrayed him
Mm-hmm.
in that light. So my thing is, I think they're trying to mitigate, they being the
Mm-hmm.
defense, mitigate the fact that what we're seeing, in my opinion, what we're seeing on Bryan Kohberger's face is not the affect of an autistic person. I don't deny that he's almost certainly autistic. That's not. I'm not questioning that. I
Right.
think what we see is the black Manson lamps of someone who's actually quite a cold and calculated alleged murderer.
Yeah.
Quadruple. Murderer. So to me, I think that they're trying to mitigate that and actually sow a seed that no, nothing. That you're not seeing psychopath. You're seeing autism, and I think
Exactly.
yes. So
Exactly. And
that
I don't. Yeah. Go ahead.
no, yeah, that's just here. So shunned one says, but BK is just a plain cold-hearted ass creep, hence no emotion, in my opinion. I think it's. I
Well,
mean, creeps can have warmth in their eyes, right? But I think that's let's for the sake of the argument, let's assume that that they've got the right person. We don't know yet. There hasn't been a trial. We don't know. We've got to wait for all the evidence. I have feelings, but uh, he's someone who can do that isn't just a creep, you know.
mhm.
That's some serious serious issues. Shelley says, "I wonder if he has a fidget." Do you reckon they'd let him have a fidget toy? Maybe his handcuffs are
Maybe
his fidgets. He just
he's got a little fidget spinner in his hands, and that's what he's sitting there doing, keep him busy and occupied. We don't need none of that Taylor Shabusiness stuff going down. Uh,
right?
but
Yikes!
You know,
Yikes!
a lot in the beginning of this case, it became so polarized, and it's like if you had to pick a side and all these weird things. But there were things about Bryan Kohberger that were very noticeable. Like when he was in court, the times we did get to see him, images that we had seen previously from the past, there just seemed to be something there or not there. Do you know what I mean? And a lot of us pointed that out, not being mean about it and not accusing him of having a condition of any kind. We're just like, what's up with this? What's going on here? And
Mm.
we were, y'all are crazy. You're seeing things. He doesn't look like that. Well, his defense attorney said right there in court, after spending time with my client, you'll see what I'm talking about. And I thought, well, she sees the same things that we saw very early on.
Well, yes. I think Carrie says, I don't see the autism in him, just a creep. I have worked with autistic people and a family member, and I don't see it. I mean, I'm autistic. I'm highly animated in my face because, and in my expressions, and I'm very responsive. And I would be very interactive. But again, I go back to that. If you've met one autistic person, all you've met there
Right.
is one person. It's like humans. Humans are different. We have lots of similarities and lots of differences, and thank goodness. So I think they're trying to mitigate the vibe that he gives off by saying the vibe is based on his ASD
That's
status.
exactly what they're doing.
But in fact, the vibe, I believe, is something
Hmm.
different altogether. And both can be true. He can be autistic and also be like
Exactly.
a psychopath, not diagnosing, using it as a general term, right?
Right.
So
No, I agree. I mean, just because you don't have, just because you are or aren't diagnosed, still, you're still a murderer or you're not,
Right.
and not every defendant's going to have a condition. But I think you're right. They're just trying to mitigate. This is why my client looks the way he does. And I'm like, okay, well, if you think that's going to work, but I don't know if the judge will allow it or not. We'll see.
We'll see. Yes, this one was under advisement, right? We'll keep going.
Bryan's physical body is more stoic, how he sits in one place. And he will look for a long time. Sometimes he'll hold his hands in a rigid position. And that means nothing. That's just how Bryan is. We seek to prevent the state from using those kind of characteristics against Bryan. We seek that in the way of testimony they might bring. Sometimes Bryan will talk longer than maybe other people want to listen, and that doesn't mean anything.
I assume he's not going to be talking in court unless he's testifying, so.
I felt that one in my bones. I had a little chuckle. Girl, same. I talk a lot.
I do too.
And it's
I do
like,
too.
I talk a lot. I generally speak very quickly, which can be an autistic thing. I think I speak quickly because I'm in my lifetime so used to be people going, "Ay, ay,
Uh-huh.
ay, when did you stop?" And so I say as much as I can before they switch off.
Exactly. And then the judge interrupts her and he says, well, he's not planning on testifying, is he? Like, he's not going to sit there and ramble on for hours about his drive around the countryside, is he? So yeah. Anne's got to be careful how she goes with this, I think.
And very noteworthy that since Judge Hippler has come in, when he shuts her down, he doesn't just entertain all of her things like Judge did. She says,
Yeah.
"Well," she's like, "Well," okay.
Yeah, and a couple of times she was like, well, this is a preventative motions, Your Honor. And I'm like, preventative? I get what she meant, but it was like papering the court to death, and they're going to get sick of it because you're trying to prolong the trial when you do that. Each new motion has to have a reply and response and all the things,
Yep, it feels very much like she's just inching right to that line, isn't she? Like, it's so much work. Like, wow,
Mhm.
and the prosecution, the state have the same bunch of discovery. They have the same volume, right? Like,
Exactly, they do. Hmm.
I think it was Forrest that said in your chat, is she just a mad complainer? Is that what we're seeing here?
Yeah, right. It sounds like that sometimes. It feels that way.
That's exactly right, Your Honor, but that doesn't stop the state from bringing a witness and using that as aggravating evidence against Mr. Kohberger, and that's what we don't want.
Hi,
We
Life.
want to be able to present, if
Hi,
we get
Lois.
to a
Hi,
mitigation
Candy.
phase, his autism and how that works and how he's learned to live with the conditions that he has and to prevent the state.
Reading the the state's response, it doesn't sound like they disagree with you that it shouldn't be used as an
Judge
aggravator.
just had his
And so,
fuck you finger up
I
here like
think
this.
that, in terms of
Yeah, he did. He's
what counsel's arguments are,
"Man."
we can control that. I think apart from a jury instruction, I'm not sure what we do, how we deal with that with the jury in terms of the penalty phase, right? If you present evidence of the disorder.
Your Honor, the court can do what we've requested and prevent the state from using Mr. Kohberger's conditions of his autism as aggravating evidence. I think a jury instruction.
I just got to pause for a minute there because what the fuck said, lol, I'm learning from this chat that if I ever end up in court, I must mask because y'all are brutal. I think, honestly, that this is being in court as some sort of defendant or really anybody in court, there is a certain, there is a high expectation and requirement of decorum. And so
Yeah.
everybody, they're masking in court. And if they're not, they're going to be tailors to business, right?
Yes, exactly.
Helps the jury to understand how to use mitigating evidence. Our purpose here is to ask the court to take the step of an
Jim
order.
Cox. Hi, Jim.
I
Everybody
don't
loves
think the
Cox.
state opposes it.
What would that order say?
That order would say that the state would be prohibited from using as aggravating evidence Mr. Kohberger's autism characteristics.
How would they use it as aggravating apart from arguing to the jury that,
Oh,
well, because
closed
he has
captions
this
just said
condition?
aggravating. Closed captions. Come on now. It's not motions in lemonade. Aggravating, not
I know,
aggravating.
right?
It means that he is, I'm just making this up, obviously, is inclined to not follow the
Put that in the
norms
middle.
of
That's really better.
society and presents a greater danger or something like that.
Your Honor, the order would prevent the state from, on the front end, in presenting their aggravation case, from using the conditions, the way autism works for Bryan, against him, to say that he does things that are consistent with autism and that that's an aggravating.
Pausing to say, Maiden says there was no decorum in the murdered roommate case. Yes, Nicole Rice, formerly, was it Thomas? I thought that was appalling, like a bloody football match. Yeah, those brother attorneys were one of the best examples of the defense attorneys were pure ego. Ugh. Anyway, they stood up and cheered. The defense attorney stood up and cheered and grabbed the not guilty defendant. The prosecution did a terrible job in that one. Terrible. They just did not prove their case. Anyway,
aggravating circumstance. That's.
I'm just having a hard time envisioning what that would be, how it would be presented in a way that is making it an aggravator.
Well, I would hope that it wouldn't be presented that way. But, Your Honor, when I look through the mounds of discovery, there are probably 100 hours of interviews of people that Mr. Kohberger went to school with at WSU. And, of course, those interviews come just hours.
So Anne's watched all of she's watched all of them, obviously, but she can't have time to watch all the other stuff?
Interviews with people from WSU that knew him and interacted with him on the daily. She's worried about what they might say, or is she worried about the autism? Which one is it, Anne? You can't keep bad things about your client from coming in. You just, it is what it is. If they're out there, they're out there. People have stories, and they can put them on the witness stand to corroborate certain things or talk about certain things. Then it is what it is.
Right.
I mean, I understand. I always felt like there may be something with him, but I never once thought, well, that's an excuse for him, right? But it doesn't mean that I thought that he should get away with what he's done or accused of doing and all that stuff. I just find, and I do get that people get late diagnosis and all of that. I find it hard to believe with Bryan Kohberger, considering his mother's history. And his sisters are psychologists and all these things that we know were there in his past. And he apparently began to have problems as a child. And these continued and they escalated.
Partial diagnosis? Didn't they say partial diagnosis? I mean, who knows what the defense is.
When you read the motions and these doctors they brought on board, this is basically a new diagnosis.
Right.
And so he was never diagnosed as a child, although he had problems as a child. And then when he became an adolescent, I think that's when things really began to brew within him. If you go by his own Tappa Talk posts and things that, take away the Reddit survey stuff, but his own Tappa Talk posts alone, the things he was saying in there about himself, about his lack of feelings and emotions. He could hug his family and would feel nothing. He wrote that himself. I didn't make it up. Things that all of that it's there. And I don't doubt there is something, but did that lend it? That's not an aggravating factor as to what caused him to do what he did.
And they also mentioned the fact that he walked on his toes, which is another early indicator in childhood of people walking with their heels elevated, that's it's got to do with, so there's a lot of things mentioned here. But I mean, my father, excuse me, is a medical person, not a psychologist, not a psychiatrist, but a very well-educated doctor, and then an academic. And my mother's also an early educator, and they never picked up on anything in me, but also I'm twice as old as Bryan Kohberger almost, and also women, girls, and
Yeah.
there's been so much research and a far greater understanding, better understanding of what autism looks like in girls and boys, men and
Mhm.
women, and Simi says, but some of his symptoms, and this is what I was going to say, also look like psychosis, though. Agreed.
Mhm.
I mean, and then again, these things don't have to be mutually exclusive. You
True.
don't have to be either autistic or prone to psychosis or schizophrenia. I'm spitballing here. And if he's again, not diagnosing, but if he's on a narcissist and or tending towards a psychopath, just speculating, then
Yeah.
all that coldness can be attributed to that, not necessarily the autism, or not
Right.
exclusively the autism. So there's a lot to
I
unpack here.
agree. Now, because see, we know that when he had the pullover stop in Washington with the female officer, he questioned everything about, pulling out to the road as far as he did. He wanted tell me the law, tell me the codes, tell me all the things. What did I do wrong? And she's steadily trying to explain it to him. And he still, and then in the end, he's like, well, I don't, mean to question you and all this stuff. Well, then we have this next stop that was never been leaked out yet, and they're going to use that in court. The prosecution says to establish identification of him in that car, because he shows his identification, gives his phone number, and gives up all of his information. But
Right.
it also comes out during this hearing that during that stop, Kohberger's combative. Why do you need my driver's license? It's a routine traffic stop, sir. I think most Americans have to give up their driver's license under a routine traffic stop. It's
Hmm.
not rocket science. Why do you want my phone number? We don't know what all was said because we can't see it yet. But the judge had a little bit of concern about that as well, only
Hmm.
because it won't look good for Bryan Kohberger. And that's not an aggravating factor either. Do you know what I'm saying? So the judge
Correct.
wanted to watch the video and maybe see they could do with some redactions on it. And it's going to be interesting to see where they go with that. But that was the stop that was less than 2 miles from the girl's home.
In August, wasn't
About
it? It was in August.
August.
August or something. Yes.
A late night stop about 11 o'clock, I think it was. And also, they had pulled a bunch of records from that shopping center right there where he was stopped. They have video cam footage from all the stores that were there, purchase records from the stores that were there, because all the girls were there shopping. It was
Right.
literally less than 2 miles from their house. So we didn't know if, was he there earlier in the day? Did he chill out in the parking lot there and watch the girls or anything like that? We don't know. We just know that is where he was stopped, and they are going to use it. But the defense doesn't want it brought in because it doesn't show Kohberger in a good light. It shows him argumentative with a cop.
Right. So that's interesting in itself, because generally, autistic folk, neurodivergent folk, generally tend to be people who appreciate rules and boundaries
Right.
and abide by them. And generally, other than oppositional defiant disorder, which can be a part of an autism diagnosis, the people who are resistant to figures of authority, other than that ODD component, are people who feel entitled and above the law, which is often narcissists and potentially psychopaths. Again, not diagnosing. Not all narcissists
Yeah.
are psychopaths, but all psychopaths
Right.
are narcissists. And so that's even in and of itself an interesting sort of side quest into that one body cam,
Mm-hmm.
that interaction.
Yeah,
Um,
I agree. And that's like one of the things I was curious to talk to you about, like that his questioning. I don't look at it just so much as questioning authority, but a questioning, it's like everything, why did you stop me? Why do you need my license? All these different things. And he got so technical on the other stop that we saw. You can tell he's a very technical person. And he
yep.
may need things explained to him, even though he already knows the answer.
Yes. Well, he had no seatbelt on and he was speeding, right?
Yes.
So And even in that, I mean, that sort of questioning authority and feeling like you're above the law is an interesting one. Shelley asks, did the traffic stop did the officer tell him why he was pulled over before asking for ID? Do they even have to?
We don't know. More than likely,
Mm.
probably. He probably did approach and say, sir, you were speeding, or, I really don't know, Shelley, because we don't have the video or any information except what came out in court. Well, we knew from court filings a couple of weeks ago were going to use it and introduce it. We knew where the stop occurred and all of that. We've known about that stop for a long time, but we're just now hearing about it in documents and stuff. So we don't know that if he told them, if he was told why he was pulled over first or not. But I'm assuming from the interaction I saw with that female cop, the minute he got pulled over, he probably started questioning things right away, even if he was told
Kasha,
he was
yes.
speeding.
Akasha has a good point. Maybe he was genuinely curious, and then that goes to autism. And then perhaps Bryan Kohberger had never been pulled over before in a routine traffic stop. Perhaps he was oblivious to his no seatbelt or speeding. I'm not sure how high above the speed limit he was going. Perhaps he was. I mean, that's a good point, Akasha. I love that. She says, "I'm
Well,
just playing advocate," because she says
the highway that he was traveling on is probably about a 45 to 55. It's right near the state line crossing back into Washington. And we now know for a fact Bryan Kohberger had 4 different traffic stops altogether. And apparently he cannot drive and follow the rules of the road. He's not too keen on following driving laws. And as a mother, I don't care for that. I don't like that at all. It's like, you drive right, But yes, he had the 2 stops in Indiana on the trip back to Pennsylvania, back-to-back stops for tailgating. He was pulled over. So for a guy who's real questiony about the law when it comes to driving, I'd probably pay a little more attention to the law since I'm getting pulled over all the time. Just saying.
Because yes, Gerda, these are 2 separate. There's 3 separate traffic stops that we know of in this case. There's this one long before, which just establishes his identification. That was the seatbelt and speeding one, right? And then the ones when he was with his father, in that time after the murders,
Yeah,
was the tailgating one, right?
Yeah, there's 4 total. The one we haven't seen yet, the one they're going to bring into court. The second one is from a stop by a female cop over in Washington State. And then we have the 2 Indiana stops when he was on his trip back to Pennsylvania.
Right. Rachel says, my son commutes from Moscow to Pullman, and said that there's cops every morning. I mean, that's a good revenue raiser, right? I presume in the States you get a financial fine as well as,
Oh,
trouble.
yeah.
So,
They're sitting there.
yes,
They
yes.
know they travel up and down that highway, huh, Rachel, getting back and forth between the 2 towns there. And they're just waiting.
Absolutely. We'll keep going.
Just don't drive like Kohberger.
No.
Hours and days after the headlines hit that Mr. Kohberger's been arrested in this case. And people that he went to school with, that he interacted with, had unkind things to say about him. And a lot of their unkind things, when you understand them in the context of autism, the way he may stand in a room.
Hang on just a second, Shorty.
Yes.
We've only heard from a few people literally in the news that knew Bryan Kohberger. We got a couple of fakers on the YouTube that claim they knew Bryan Kohberger and then happily admit they didn't. They knew of Bryan Kohberger because they lived around the same town and went to the same high school, but that was about as far as it went. But the people who did know Bryan Kohberger, who actually went to school with the man, have spoke out. They were very hesitant to speak badly about him publicly. They did tell us some things, but it was not done in a malicious way, right? They spoke of the good things about their friend as well. And then they spoke about changes they saw in him when he began to use the heroin and he lost the weight. And instead of being bullied, he became the bully. Now, that's just based off what people who actually knew him said, not just people who claimed they knew him. So I don't know where she's getting, they're all going to say bad things about him, because they spoke their truth, but they weren't, you could tell they didn't want it to come out like they were, oh my God, we're going to bash our old friend now and say he's a killer, because they were just as confused by all of that.
Correct. Simi wonders whether he chose his college major so he could learn to try to get away with this crime. Just a thought. I think
Yeah.
yes, and you find that often, there's plenty of, serial
Hmm.
killers. Not saying that Bryan Kohberger is a serial killer. Perhaps if he's the guy, perhaps this was,
He could have
stopping
been one in the
something before it turned
making.
into that. Yes, in the
Yeah.
making. Thank you. But I think you'll find there's a lot of people who are have this dark propensity who are drawn to law enforcement. And again, not saying that law enforcement officers are evil, but because they like that proximity to the dark
Yes.
side of
Um,
people. And same with studying criminology, right?
yeah. BTK had a background in criminology. We know that Ted Bundy had a background in criminology. Happy Face Killer was law enforcement. I can go on and on.
Mhm. Yep,
I could
exactly.
really, really could. And it makes you wonder with his early studies, because the first thing he did was go to the community college and he got his associates in psychology. Now, both of his sisters are psychologists and they're both older. And so he got his associate bachelor there at the community college and got psychology. And then he went on to DeSales, and that's when he began his criminal justice career, studies. And from there, he just accelerated. And they said, by all accounts, he is super bright. You
Mm,
don't get into the program he got into on a whim. He didn't just
mm,
decide, I'm going to go to Washington State, let me go apply and hope I get in. It was not like that. He had to be recommended, and he was only one of two that particular professor has ever recommended for that course. He
correct.
came
And then
highly recommended.
when they get in a bit later where they're talking about, and we'll get to it, I presume we'll get to it. We might be here for
Mhm.
9 hours. Um, but when they're talking about how he understands, in theory, mitigation and the meaning of the word mitigation, but can't actually translate whether the fact that he saved someone's life on the job or volunteered for the Special Olympics, that those things could be mitigating. I'm like, bullshit, like bullshit. He gets all that.
Bullshit.
He's a like bullshit. I call bullshit. I call
Thank you.
bullshit.
That's right.
It was
Bullshit.
just infuriating. I think your chat, and we were all like, "What?" Like spit coming out of our
And I
ears.
was loving it. I was here for it. I'm like, I love when you guys chime in on the conversation.
Room near a doorway, the way he may look too long at a person. Their interviews
That's because he's
are
creepy.
different when you know he has autism and you know the characteristics he displays. But those awful comments, those mean comments about him, if the state uses those as aggravators, that's using his autism characteristics.
How do I, though, and I don't know that this is a real thing, right, in terms of actual evidence. Let's say there's evidence that he harassed other young females. Okay, and I'm aware of no evidence in that regard. I just want to make that clear. I'm just using this as an example. And let's further assume that in and of itself is somehow relevant in a mitigation aggravation penalty phase. Your position is that's due to his
Judge.
I know. The judge is like, what do I
Whereas
do?
the state's view may, no, that's not, that's his view of women and goes to motive, et cetera. And goes to his aggravation of the crime in some way. Not because of Asperger's, but because of his views, his dislike.
I'm gritting my
of how he
teeth. I'm so
responds.
uncomfortable with this.
That's exactly the problem, Your Honor. If the state, and
Do you want
I
me to,
wanna
you want
be
me to weigh in and
clear.
say what the factual findings are, that it's this and not that? And I'm not sure I can do that short from a
So he's
jury
asking
instruction
her,
that,
it-
you cannot use.
Gotcha. Yes.
he's asking her, you want to counteract people who are going to come in and say what she perceives to be bad things about her client by getting out in front of it and telling the jurors, well, this is why he acted that way. He has autism. And I don't think that's right. I mean, I get
No.
if it was severe, you know what I mean? His severe, because I can't get past this 28-year-old man going all the way across the country, finally leaving his mother's home and getting into one of the best programs he could possibly get into, getting that far alone. And now we're supposed to understand you have all these conditions and you can't even walk across the floor. But yet you've made it this far. And now you're a teacher assistant at a top college teaching other students, but you don't understand mitigation. I don't buy it.
Make it make sense, Salty. I think,
Yeah,
and like it's kind of insulting of Antel. I mean, it's a
yeah,
decorum. She has to throw it all at the wall and see what sticks. She has to do whatever she can, but come on
but she
now.
crossing the line. Yeah, I
Mm,
mean, she's got to be real careful how she plays this and Dylan.
right, right,
Uh,
right.
Yes, ma'am. It could
mental
backfire
health
on her.
conditions as an aggravating factor.
That's an appropriate jury instruction, and if we get to that phase, my guess is that we'll have one of those jury instructions. But if it's an appropriate jury instruction, how is the jury to understand and properly respond to that instruction if the state has been allowed to run over the top of that during the presentation of their aggravation case? It's that I want to limit. Once we present
There
mitigation,
may be a dispute about the reasons for his conduct, a factual dispute. And that then ultimately is for a jury to determine, not for me.
Bingo.
Mm-hmm.
Your Honor, I believe
She's
the
like,
court is envisioning a problem that does not
I
exist.
hope so.
I think that the court will not find that that comes up. I think the court can issue an order to the state that would be not to use his conditions of his autism as an aggravator, his
They're not
diagnosis
going
of
to.
autism as an aggravator. That's going to
No.
be very
I'm
Right,
starting to
similar to the
wonder if
court's
she's
jury
if she's
instruction,
on the
and that
spectrum.
keeps the trial
I mean,
process clean.
I think a lot of attorneys might be very, very hyper focused. I think absolutely the
yeah,
Beth Silverman in the Monica Cementelli trial absolutely is the
you think
passion.
so? Okay.
Absolutely
Yeah,
there's often a strong focus on injustice and feeling righteous indignation
yeah,
towards injustices in autistic folk, and. Yeah, I mean, you have to be able to be, and if you're in that what used to be called the Asperger's sort of range of very very verbose, very good with words, not all, but some, then it's a profession that would sort of pair well with being autistic. Gigi says, as a mother with a son with autism diagnosed at age 3, I'm not buying her argument. Right, Gigi?
mm.
Right.
Thank you, Gigi, because I've been watching comments in my chat when we discuss it, and I'm watching here because I'm always curious as to what people who do have to deal with autism think about this and what their experiences are. You know, we have so much was said about poor Sebastian Rogers and his autism, and some had him down to an infant in a diaper when that's just not what the case was. You know what I mean? The boy was damn near normal. And so I'm always curious as to see what everybody who does deal with this on a daily basis, what their take is and how they feel about this being used in this way. Do you know what I mean?
Me personally, I understand that again, that it's not a cookie cutter. We're all different,
Right.
like humans are all different. And I get some of what she's saying, and I think who was it? Someone just before said, I feel like she knows what she's trying to say. She's just not necessarily articulating it as well as she could.
Yeah.
Um, and um, uh,
Well, let's
some of the
see.
things I identify very very strongly with what she's saying, and other things I'm like, but it could be the way she's phrasing it, Ann Taylor's
Well,
verbiage, that's the offensive thing, not the argument itself.
right. If you're listening, but if you're listening, when she's bringing up this argument, it just came behind his friends are going to come in and say bad things about him. I don't want the jury to look across the room and see this man just sitting there. She's using his autism diagnosis as an excuse to excuse his behavior of how he's sitting at that table, his behavior of what his friends perceived him to be. I don't
Mm,
like it. That's
mm.
mitigation stuff, lady, at best.
I think
That
she's
comes
just
in.
making a record, but yes,
I
yes.
get it. Yeah, she's
Um,
making a but what's the record going to be about? You did not let the jurors know up front my client had autism, therefore the room was read wrong. I don't, you
Mm.
know what I mean? I'm having a really hard time. I wouldn't have any problem at mitigation, which means once he's convicted, if convicted, then it's time to fight the death penalty, truly fight the death penalty. That's when you bring up those mitigating circumstances.
Right.
In Idaho right
Um,
now, this is not one of them.
No. What the fuck says, I'm autistic and my child is autistic, Salty. As Miss Shorty said, if you've met one autistic person, you've met one autistic person. What the fuck is not
Right.
offended by what she's saying at all. I'm offended
Okay.
by some of it, but I think a lot of my like bristling comes from some of the terminology they're using, not necessarily the argument itself.
Okay. Yeah.
And I'm kind of conflicted because here's me saying, yeah, but that's not autistic people. But then also, but that could be Bryan Kohberger. I think the cognitive
Yeah.
dissonance here is that what we've seen in the media and what we see of him in court suggests that that's just him being him, and whether it's creepy or cold or autistic or all of the above. Um, I don't think that it deserves. I personally don't think it deserves to be addressed to the jury.
No, that's my whole point of this whole thing
Mm,
is the way
yes.
she's trying to present it. Um, I'm not offended that she talks about him having autism or anything that he may actually have wrong or going on with him. It's the way she's trying to use it. I don't agree
Yes.
with. She's
That yes, and
using
that
it right
yeah.
now. She's
Yes.
not trying to get you to feel sorry for her client or get behind him to support him. Poor Brian's got a couple of things going on. No, she's using it to get to the jury. This is why he acted that way with his friends. And they just
Mm.
spoke badly of him on the witness stand because he has autism. That's not an excuse
But then
to treat
also
your friends badly. It's not an
I defend
excuse to
no.
question all the cops constantly. It is not an excuse to sit there at
Right.
your table all stoic. And why is he so special that the jury gets to hear that? Because Anne's going to mess up when she introduces this evidence to that jury. If the
Right.
judge, he might as well let her at this point so everybody can shut down and see that this judge is not biased. Because now all of a sudden, they hated judges, indecisions, and all this stuff. Now everybody is saying, not everybody, on Twitter, social media, where I've looked, this is a biased judge now because he shut in Taylor
Oh,
down a couple of times. Now
no.
he's biased.
He's just getting
He's a
moving
no
along.
nonsense judge, right? He's like, this Ann Taylor lady, I've had thousands of judges before, attorneys before me. She's just another one in his eyes.
Right. And she's overly verbose and she's overly whiny and he doesn't have time for it. Trial is approaching, right?
Exactly.
I also you got to think also though, not necessarily in opening statements, but in closing arguments, you will find defense attorneys who mention the fact that perhaps their client isn't particularly likable. Like I think maybe Alec Murdoch was one of them. I know again in the Monica
Yep.
Simontelli trial, her defense attorney addressed that, but it was at the end in argument,
Yes.
not in the opening. And I think this is something for argument. What the fuck says, I don't think it's an excuse. I think it's an explanation. Sounds a lot like when people say don't use your autism as an excuse. It's not an excuse. It's an explanation though. I agree. I just don't
I
know whether
agree.
it's something for opening statements or even a jury instruction, but more for argument at the very end because the jury but yes, they might have already made all their assessments based on all of the things because human nature is that you don't just listen to the evidence, you take in it all, you take in the defendant's
Exactly.
they're instructed not to, and it's something for argument, I think.
Hmm. I agree with
Yes.
you. I just, yeah, because this has not really been played out in a legal situation before. Do you know what I mean? Not like this. And
No.
and some of the arguments that Anne has tried in the past and failed on miserably under the law, not anything but the law. She just, it's like I don't blame her. She's a good attorney. I don't dislike Ann
Mm,
Taylor.
I
She
think
does her job
she
well. She's the best one qualified to handle this case. Do you know what I mean? There was even a time that people who support Kohberger started side-eyeing this attorney. They didn't think she was doing enough and all these weird things. But she's done all she can do. She's doing more. You know what I mean? I feel like she's
Right.
stepping up, but she's doing more. Is that because she feels like she can set some precedents with this case going forward? Because I'm here to tell y'all, when we read court documents in 10 years, they're going to cite Idaho versus Kohberger.
Absolutely. Britt Ketchell says, "Hi everyone. I'm autistic. Hi Britt. And I think as a death penalty case, autism diagnosis needs to be mentioned. However, I'm undecided yet how it is to be delivered to the jury. I think his demeanour. My personal belief is talk about his demeanour or possible, the inference that the jury may have drawn from that is for closing arguments, and the diagnosis itself is for expert witness testimony. That's all."
Yeah, and so if Anne's also going to say things like when you hear her physical description of Bryan, you're like, oh, wow. When is she going to bring that up in court? Is she the only one allowed to bring up his diagnosis and talk about it, but not the prosecution?
Exactly.
She can only bring it up when it suits her needs. That's where I'm at with this right now.
And also, Rachel makes a good point here. I think the jury will be smart enough to see his autism when the facts are presented. And also,
Yeah.
if they voir dire and select, if they seat the right jury through the voir dire process, then they can choose they being both sides, the defense and the prosecution, can choose a selected jury which will be moderate in their ability to use their discretion for all those things. That's what the voir dire is for also.
Yeah.
They're not going to
Yeah.
pick a jury of idiots, are they? They're not going to pick a jury of, extremists who that just wouldn't be, that's not smart for anybody, with the defense or the prosecution. So,
Yeah.
Gigi says, it sounds like this lawyer, Ann Taylor, wants to use autism as a shield and a sword. I agree.
I agree. Yes,
I
ma'am.
agree. Let me see. We'll keep going.
Clean, and it allows the jury to draw the distinctions and properly use mitigation
Yes,
as
Simi,
it's
yes.
supposed to do. This is a
Just
protective measure
very
to
briefly.
be sure that
Yes, Simi, that she's putting it on the record right now, she being Ann Taylor, the defense, are putting this on the record right now to make a record for if, when it comes to penalty phase, if it gets to that point, that that this is not suddenly being brought out of the, from the woodwork.
Right.
So absolutely. It's not for the guilt phase, it's for the penalty phase if and when they come to that.
that
Yes.
case law is complied with and that Mr. Kohberger's constitutional rights are protected.
Thank you.
Morning, Your Honor. So the court is correct that I don't think there's a whole lot of room between the state and the defense in terms of what the law says here. But there are maybe some practical problems in what the defense is asking for from this order. And the court has already nailed this. If the court is to issue an order that says the state can't rely on his autism as an aggravating factor, then anything we try and present, they're going to argue, well, that's a symptom of his autism, and therefore the court's order says you can't use that.
Wait.
I don't think that's...
I'll slow it down. Akasha makes a good point. And let's be honest, do you really think that there's not going to be one autistic person on that jury? I highly doubt it.
Right. Exactly.
Later on, one of the attorneys, not Ann Taylor, but the other female defense attorney, when she stamps her foot and says, "The humanity, it's up to you, Your Honor, to set this precedent, to do the right thing."
So that makes you wonder: are these attorneys trying to establish a name for themselves? Look what we got done in the Kohberger case.
I think you might be onto something.
You have to look at it like, it's not just about them to going to the death for their client. They're looking. They got a career to protect and maintain and continue forward. If she can get, and got a big win when she got IGG, and people just don't realize it. Attorneys have talked about it. That is normally not something you get. And she got the information she wanted. And it took the judge a long time to go through all that IGG and give her what she wanted. She got subpoenas for the FBI and got back stuff from those subpoenas. Very rare in a case. Right. She took on the FBI. I made a video a long time ago, FBI. Ann Taylor takes on the FBI. And she was winning.
Yes.
But we'll see if her Ray can win against Nick Balance. I doubt it, but we'll see.
The other thing is too that particular attorney mentions about how, I can't remember the verbiage, but she says 1 in 59 people autistic. I would suggest that it's much more like 1 in about 10. That's not what statistics say at the moment, but I think you'll find in the next couple of decades that
Yeah.
ratio is going to come right in, tighten right up as more and more children and late diagnosed adults come into the sort of the line of sight of research. I think it's a much higher ratio than, a much closer number than 1 in 59. That's my, just based on nothing except my lived experience.
I think that's an
Yes.
appropriate approach. What I can tell the court is the state has no plans whatsoever to use the autism during the penalty phase as any kind of aggravation whatsoever. There is no plan to put on students from the university to talk about their personal views of this individual. To be
Thank
quite
you,
frank,
Lois.
if we get to a
Lisa.
penalty phase, we have a lot better aggravating evidence than the fact that he has level 1 autism. And frankly, it's just not a persuasive argument
Level
to ask a jury
1.
to impose the penalty of death because someone has autism.
So because I'm
from the
not
state's
I'm
perspective,
actually not, I haven't been able to for many reasons pursue the diagnostic process, financial bandwidth, my
Yeah.
aversion to medical folk, just because of not being gaslit in my previous sort of early stages of diagnosis. But yeah, Rachel says, thanks everyone for having a real conversation and not just he's innocent. I appreciate you all.
Oh,
Well,
he's
thank you,
sweet.
Rachel.
We love
I
you,
think
Rachel.
that, yeah, we do love you, Rachel. For me personally, I have strong. I believe, but I'm not going to be dying on a hill. I have a feeling that he's the guy. However, like with any trial, I'm very open to being persuaded by the evidence presented, and whether that's towards factual innocence or guilt, or whether the state does or doesn't prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt. And I think a lot of this community is the same. We're pretty good at being quite objective and passionately so, I think.
Yeah.
Yes, he does present as someone who is neurodivergent. I do think the jury will see him in the autism light. Yes, I mean, it's nuanced. This is not just, he's autistic, give him a pass.
Right.
this falls largely into one of the categories the court mentioned earlier in a different motion, that it's just really not necessary here. We understand the law. We understand that we're not to use his mental condition as an aggravator. We do, however, reserve the right to present argument as to, if the defense chooses to present it as a mitigating factor, how much weight should the jury give it? And I think we have quite a bit of flexibility there to put on our own evidence.
So back to my diagnosis thing. I don't even know. I think level 1 is the least autistic. Am I right?
Right.
And level 3 is the most.
I don't know. I've never heard him speak of it in terms of levels. That's why I was curious.
Yeah, no, that's what. So level 1 equals, thank you, grass is green enough. Level 1 equals high functioning.
Okay,
and
makes sense.
Level 3 means you are more autistic and probably need more accommodations and assistance, and are less able to function in society without some huge barriers.
Yes.
To doing that well or capably or whatever. It's so hard to use the right words here, and I'm autistic.
No, you're good. Look, I have a niece I love dearly, but she has a hard time in public sometimes. You know what I mean? Don't stare at her, because she will probably cuss you and ask you, why are you staring at me? And we're like, oh my God, but it's always been that way with her. There's just she has her quirks and we know it, right? So we deal with them, but people are what they are and who they are. And I think at some point, like you were just saying, how that's going to narrow down like 1 in 10. Has it always been here? Do we all have a touch of autism in some degree?
No.
You know what I mean? It's just
I think that what's changing, Salty, is the understanding of how vast a spectrum it is.
Yes.
And so it's the research that's gone, and the better awareness and understanding in the mental health or the psychology, the field of psychology and psychiatry, to understand better what's going on. Britt makes a good point. Level 1 is higher functioning, but even higher functioning can struggle to function in different circumstances. Can attest. I
think that is in line with Kohberger. If we see if he's level 1 and he's high functioning, which we know he is, look at the way he interacts with and it was strange because the two police stops where it's just him alone with law enforcement, he's questioning. But the 2 stops in Indiana, when he's with his father, He doesn't even want to talk to those cops. I'm just going to get Thai food. Let me go.
And
You know?
honestly, autism is genetic. It's handed down through the generations. So probably, possibly, the father also is autistic or neurodivergent, and so has an equally to be perceived as being an odd response in that situation. It makes
Yeah,
sense.
because his father began to talk about, we're just coming from WSU, and that shooting just happened over there, which was the Bryan Kohberger involved shooting. And Bryan was just like, we're going to get Thai food. And we're all like, well, wait. And his dad brought up that Kohberger situation, and everybody began to dig into that. And that was a whole hot mess rabbit hole in Idaho, but went nowhere. But I think you're right. It's interesting the way they're playing this with Kohberger, though. I do believe there is something there, but I just don't like the way she's going about using it. Like the comment said, her sword and her shield right now.
Right.
As to what exactly this autism means, and so that if the defense tries to say this is the reason that you should not sentence him to death, then we should be able to argue this does not make up for.
Wait, Joe has a serious question. Joe Schmoe asks, serious question about neurodivergence and factual guilt. How accountable should someone be who is neurodivergent? On what level is that? Well, he's level 1, Joe shows Joe. So if he's level 1, that's what they talk about. I don't know if we'll end up getting to it, but that's in the other couple of motions. They go more into that, and there is some case law to suggest that never once has any level of autism been mitigating enough to preclude them from legal accountability.
Yeah.
And it's a different. He's not intellectually challenged. He's a
Nope.
PhD student. So this is not. I think it's a moot point, to be honest.
I do too.
Yeah. So what I think we might do is finish with this. Well, we've still got a little bit left. Finish with this particular argument, and then we'll go on to the Ray stuff, because I think we've had a really good conversation. We can continue to talk about it and come back to it. But
We're good.
The proper aggravation evidence that we've put forward. I think not only is that the state's right, it's what the statute requires. It's what the Idaho Supreme Court has been very clear that a juror in this situation has to be able to do. It's their duty. That was the Dunlap case. It's their duty to weigh the evidence, including any mental health or mental illness evidence, and make that ultimate determination. And
it's not a mental illness, sir.
The state does not believe that this order is necessary or appropriate,
different neurotype,
but also has no plans of using this as aggravation. Thank you, Your Honor.
From a diagnostic point of view, Maiden, autism spectrum disorder is categorized definitely in Australia, and I believe in the States as well, because it's a DSM-5 thing, into level 1, 2, and 3 to help differentiate in terms of level of care or assistance or accommodations required for that person to best be able to live comfortably. I don't mean financially comfortably. I mean within society and in their life. So yes, that's definitely, it's a diagnostic thing.
We understand that the state can argue the weight of the mitigation evidence. That's not why we brought this motion. As far as what the conditions of autism are and the way it works in Bryan, the state has received through our expert disclosures reports that describe that. So there's some guidelines for the state there to understand what we are talking about with Bryan's autism. The state will present its aggravation evidence first. The protective order that we're seeking from the court, the order to say...
Anne, I don't know if we can keep hearing Anne go on about this. Cheryl, with an S, must have come in just after I said, I personally have a feeling, given the scant amount of understanding I have of the evidence that the state has got, I believe that he's most likely the guy. However, I'm going to wait for the trial, and I'm happy to be convinced either way by the evidence presented and the witnesses and the testimony, and also whether the state is able to prove their case, and if that, beyond a reasonable doubt, if that happens, well, done. But I don't know, how do we know? That's what trials are for, right? we can't all, we're guilty and innocent until proven guilty in a court of law, right? Shall we go, Salty, to the Ray stuff, and we can all, if chat wants to come back
That's
to
fine.
one of the next come back to the autistic stuff, the ASD stuff, we can, but we've got still, there's a lot to talk about with Ray, and I know Salty has big feelings on Cy. Interestingly, Salty, I sent you the Cy's testimony in from the
Monica's case? Yes, you
Yes,
did.
yes.
And I appreciated that because he testified for the state.
Right.
And like right before you sent me that, somebody had went on YouTube, a creator, and said that Cy never testifies for the state. He used to testify for prosecutions all the time, and said that he never testifies for the state anymore. And they had a pretty good theory as to why, you know, being that paid expert in business and all that. But I was like, well, here he is testifying for the prosecution. But I still have feelings, yeah.
Because hasn't he extricated himself from this stuff? He sold his program or whatever to LexisNexis, and he's doing, isn't he a big YouTube guy now or something, or a podcast guy? And
He has a podcast now. He's had it for a while. I wasn't aware of it until after the Kohberger stuff, so I don't really even know how long he's had the channel. But I found that odd. I know he went on, did a guest spot on another YouTube channel, which I found really odd considering who it was, especially when you're over here going to be under a gag order. He didn't talk about the case because he couldn't under the gag order, but still the fact that he came out and did it, it was like a publicity stunt type thing. And then he owned a company called ZX, and they developed all these programs and software, and he goes into his background and stuff. Anyway, he ended up selling it to the other company, Lexus, like you said, and he stayed on for a while with them to transition, you know, and to show them all the things or whatever. So that's his background. But he was a former police officer. He has no real formal training, like in self-service. Like he's pretty much self-taught. He took
right.
some courses and things like that. You'll see when he talks about his affidavit is in the case file, and he tells you himself. Even when in Monica's testimony, they take the stand, say who they are, and they give their brief background, and you hear it right there, and it's not super impressive.
He gives me vibes of the Ian Whiffen from the Karen Reid trial. It felt like he was spruiking his wares to his training courses and his this and his that in this
Yes.
in his affidavit. He's very, very self-congratulatory and very talking about his big credentials, and is like, yikes. Yes,
Yeah.
Shelley, we're talking, and chat, we're talking about now Cy Ray, who's the digital forensic digital expert. Am I right?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So let's a bit more of Ann Taylor. Brace yourself.
Your Honor, we're requesting the court deny the state's motion and allow us to cross-examine their expert.
So we've got, this is about the timing advance records. So this is, Salty, do you want to just elaborate a little bit more on this? But basically, it appears there's a 7-day window from AT&T that needs to, the company needs to be subpoenaed within the 7 days of these timing advance records being collected. Once that 7-day period has passed, there's no longer an ability for AT&T to draw those records regardless of, so there was those geofencing results, but at the time of those geofencing results in the first 7 days after the murder, there were suspects and they did get timing advance records for those suspects. However, at that point, Bryan Kohberger was not a suspect. So there's a disconnect, right, Salty?
And his phone would not have shown up in that 3800 phone dump because his phone was off.
Right. So it's a moot point. There's a couple of moot points there, really.
Yeah, and so that was the thing. So then the thing about the report, AT&T timing, is the defense is trying to say that the Prosecution had these records without a doubt, and they refused to turn them over. Therefore, they need to be sanctioned. Let's not forget, in Idaho, the death penalty was taken off the table for Lori Vallow for prosecution's failure to turn over disclosure in time. And I've said that the entire time this case has gone on, and Ann Taylor has already cited Lori Vallow 3 different times.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm
So,
like,
so,
damn
and,
it, Ann. So,
and then,
yeah, so she's using it as an angle to try to get them for misconduct, but there's nothing there. Because the only way she knows, and the judge called it out, the only thing she's got to tell her that, so apparently, according to Ray, prior to May of 2023, only the FBI could obtain those timing records. After 2023, local law enforcement could obtain a very similar but not full report. And then he said at one point, the FBI, he had been working with them off and on, whatever, they had given him a document that he needed to upload to a program and translate, basically read it. And he didn't know what the heck it was. He had never seen it before. He didn't know what it was. He knew he had to create a program to read it, all these things. The next day he gets a call. This is what Ray just stated in his documents, in the court filings. The next day he gets a call from the FBI agent saying, oops, I need that document back. Forget you ever saw it. Don't make a copy of it. Don't make that program. Don't do nothing. I need the document. Ray was like, okay, do you think he made a copy anyway?
of course.
Okay, so the judge is like, that's what he's told her, basically. The only thing you have to go by is this man telling you that's how he knew these records were obtainable. But like you pointed out, during the second AT&T warrant, by the time they got Kohberger's name and ran those same reports, then they were available, but it wasn't for Kohberger because he was outside that 7-day window. And even if he had been within that window, the phone wouldn't have done it. Was turned off during that time frame.
Right. And Ray, we'll get to it because the judge gets very stern with Ann Taylor and regarding Ray's really strong allegations or sort of accusations that there is some very serious prosecutorial misconduct done
right.
all of this.
And look, in the recent documents, we have an affidavit from AT&T signed stating they did not have those records. So I got to believe what they're telling me. AT&T is not going to come out here and risk their entire legal department on Bryan Kohberger. No. They're not going to lie for the FBI or anybody. Right. I mean, unless I got this is that one giant conspiracy and we're all just crazy idiots. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. But I'm not buying that either.
Interesting. The judge has the same concerns about a conspiracy theorist being presented with Mr. Ray. So let's listen to what Taylor has to say.
Nicholas Balance with regard to timing advance records.
What evidence do you have that timing advance records existed that the state could have acquired for Mr. Kohberger?
Well, Your Honor,
I've read your affidavit of Mr. Ray, and he seems to entirely ignore the 7-day issue and doesn't address it.
Your Honor, his affidavit, I think, starts before to explain to the court some of the history about where the timing advance records come from. When Mr. Kohberger was identified, I'm going to jump ahead and tell you why I think I should get to ask Nick Balance about these records. When Mr. Kohberger came to the attention of the state and they began doing search warrants for Mr. Kohberger's records, on December 23rd, there were 2 separate search warrants for Mr. Kohberger's AT&T records, and they requested timing advance records. And one of the pages that we gave you was the carrier request that said, give us 7 days worth of timing advance records. There were 7 days back, at least 7 days back at that time. Those have never been produced to us. What I've learned in working with Mr. Ray is that obtaining timing advance records now goes through a different process than it went before. FBI agents had a means to get these timing advance records before they were generally available to all of law enforcement. Generally available now comes through the GLDC program, and that happened in 2023.
But he's not indicated he has any evidence that, at least for the time of the murder, that those would still be in existence.
Rachel has a good point. Nick Balance is a very reputable FBI agent who has been doing this stuff for years. It's just
For years.
why?
And if you watch him, I have his testimony in the Chad Daybell case. Very, very impressive. He knows his stuff. And he's very articulate. And he's strong on a witness stand. And like she said, he's been doing this for a very long time. And Ray actually knows Nick Balance. And he actually said in the hearing, a previous hearing, Ray wasn't doubting the work of Nick Balance. He was doubting the work of Mowry, who uploaded the information into the program. Like, how are you going to upload the information there? I don't get that part, but okay. But so he was real careful about that. But then he comes out later and says, well, the FBI would have had those records based on something he saw that he thinks were AT&T time and records. But yeah.
I wonder if Ray and Nick Balance have got personal beef.
I don't know. Like, did something go down right, in the past? Like, we might get to see a showdown. We might really need some popcorn.
Joe Schmoe says, I'm a slightly reputable YouTuber who's been doing this stuff for months.
He's slightly reputable, Joe Schmoe. More reputable than I am.
From Nick Balance, who is FBI and who has the back door.
From AT&T.
You've heard from AT&T that GLDC did not produce these records in 2022. You've absolutely heard that from AT&T. What you haven't heard is the other way that...
The other way. I haven't heard that either. I've heard a general description, and I've heard in the affidavit that
Yes,
he received
Judge.
some once, and they said, oh, no, don't use those. I don't know if those were acquired within the 7 days.
Good point.
He doesn't address the 7 days. And that's a glaring, particularly given the inflammatory language in that accusations in that affidavit. It's a glaring omission.
Thank
Your Honor,
you, Carla.
we don't even have the 7 days worth, which is what the carrier request says.
Exactly, Anne.
That-
The 7 days that he's back home.
Maybe.
I'll ask the state about those, if they receive those. I'm not sure their search warrant covered that time frame, but
Your Honor, I would say that it did, and I would say their first search warrant was just a 48-hour period. It asked for timing advance records, but then the second warrant,
you would agree there's no evidence that AT&T provided those, or that those...
I'm just going to pause for a moment there. I thought I was muted for a second there, and I have to play my Joe Schmoe, Miss Shorty, you're muted soundbite. Cheryl's going to be there in Dedham on Tuesday for the first day of trial, it seems. And those of you who've come, letting you know, nightly recaps of the Sidebah Karen Reid trial from your Thursday night for 10 nights, because I've got a week and a half off work. So yay. Just thought I'd mention it. Week and a half off from the peasant work shit. So it'll probably be 8 or 9 Eastern, but we'll do that.
We're still available by the time that Mr. Kohberger was identified.
Your Honor,
An officer of the court.
as an officer of the court, I would like to ask.
So Emily D. Baker was like, ooh, when Judge says, as an officer of the court, that's basically Ann Taylor's warning.
Right?
Ma'am, you are telling me, as an officer of the court, this is what you're saying? And she's like, you can hear the reversing lights, the reversing beat.
She started walking back real quick, right?
She's like, it's like it's more than I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed. Judge is mad.
Yeah.
Nick balance that. And here's why. The things that I've learned is that the 7 days is on paper. Sometimes they go back further than other
Right,
days.
Princey? Quit lying.
What's the evidence of that, counsel?
The evidence has been in the practice that I've learned from people that I've worked
You're giving
with.
me that testimony now?
I'm not giving you testimony. I'm answering the court's question.
Evidence
Made
in the
some serious
practice that I've
accusations
learned
against the state.
from
I want to back
Cyrus.
it up. Yeah, wow,
Okay.
wow. Let's go back because it's epic. Like this judge, he ain't playing. Judge ain't playing.
As an officer of the court, I would like to ask Nick balance that. And here's why. The things that I've learned is that the 7 days is on paper. Sometimes they go back further than other days.
What's the evidence of that, counsel?
The evidence has been in the practice that I've learned from people that I've worked with.
You're giving me that testimony now?
I'm not giving you testimony. I'm answering the court's question.
Okay. But you've made some serious accusations against the state of hiding evidence, and yet you've provided no factual basis, zero, that that evidence existed for them to be able to obtain it in December.
Your Honor, in April of, or I'm sorry, it was probably by the July date that I got it.
She's like, oh, I need to drink of water. I can't breathe. I'm trying to say the things I need to say, and Judge is mad.
She's going, dang, I miss Judge.
Yikes.
He give me my way right now.
Because the glaring omission in Cyray's affidavit, he's filing to
Yeah.
the court, is that he doesn't address the 7 days. That this is like, it's like a lie by omission coupled with serious prosecutorial misconduct allegations. Like, how?
Right. Is Cy prepared to get up there and testify to how he knows the FBI or AT&T had access to those records before May of 2023? I mean, like the judge said, she's got nothing to prove what she's saying except Cyray telling her that's what they could do. That's all she's got.
Trust me, bro. Trust me, bro. Wait, I just remembered I've got a new soundbite. Let me just, oh my God, I should have just not said anything and just played it. It's funny.
Uh-oh.
Wait.
I have 2 words. Do it. Do it. I'd love that.
Alan Jackson.
Look, in Discord, if I get in Discord with Firefly and Dolphin, if we're discussing a case or something, and I'll hit the soundboard. I mean, I'm so bad about that. I'd probably drive my audience crazy if I got my hands on one.
I've just got mine in. I've just got the mine in the brand section in this background music bit. I have had a comment from I don't think a subscriber. I think they unsubscribed, going, I just couldn't watch it with all the stupid sound effects and stuff. I'm like, and all the commentary. And somebody else say, just play the video. I'm like, oh, you must be new here.
You must be new here, right? What are you not getting?
Bye.
That's what we do.
It's my charm, for goodness sake.
Right.
Of 2024, I got records from 2022. In some other time in 2024, I think it was May, I got 3,800 people's timing advance
because
records.
they were asked within 7 days of the date that they saw it.
Bingo.
It was the tower dump from the night of the murder asked within the 7 days.
She's like,
I understand that.
Okay.
Do you though?
So where is the evidence that Mr. Kohberger's timing advance records from AT&T were available to anybody in December without a prior request that they save those?
Well, I don't know if they made a prior request that they save those.
Well, they wouldn't, because they didn't know who he was.
You're correct. They didn't know who he was until, I think, about December 19th.
Right.
Bingo, Anne.
Their
Hello?
warrant for his full scope of records, the second AT&T warrant, asked for all of the records. I haven't seen any of them. That's, even if they were just the 7 days back, I haven't seen any of
What
them.
you're talking about now is a discovery issue of those 7 days that don't sound like they're particularly relevant to the murder. That's a discovery issue you can take up with the court through a motion to compel, which you have not filed. It's not an evidentiary issue in which you can lay down Mr. Ray's conspiracy theory without any evidence at trial.
Conspiracy theory. I should have read the conspiracy.
We have litigated
Girl,
this
I'm gonna make a
issue
video.
quite extensively throughout the course of the case.
Yes. I'm going to back that up because I buried the lead there with Judge. What am I doing? Did I bury? Oh my God! 2 screens. It just got me. Fuck. You know why? My mouse was on the wrong screen. There we go. The mouse cursor is going to be there. Judge just said, basically calls Cyray a conspiracy theory.
It's a discovery issue you can take up with the court through a motion to compel, which you have not filed. It's not an evidentiary issue in which you can lay down Mr. Ray's conspiracy theory without any evidence at trial.
That shit was epic.
Your Honor, we have litigated this issue quite extensively throughout the course of the case. The timing advance records, once I understood how timing advance works, became very important. We've heard different things now than I've heard at different times in the past.
Pause. Simi says, is it almost time for a musical interlude? Yes. Shall we go to the end of this? It's another 6 minutes of this particular, the timing advanced records, and Judge ain't playing. And then we might have a little toilet and music, toilet break, music break, smoke some, pour one. It's a bit early for me. It's only 9 o'clock in the morning here, but Britt asks, are they trying to get it stepped down from a death penalty to life in prison like Laurie Vallow Daybell? Salty?
Oh, of course, that's going to be her end game, and that's going to be all she's got left in the end. She's going to be mitigating that like crazy when it comes time. Now, under Idaho law, right now, though, autism doesn't qualify. There's like very limited, right? Like you were saying earlier. So I don't know how much good, I don't know if she's going to succeed at getting the DP off the table or not. And that's one reason she's trying to get the prosecution on misconduct. She's been trying for a long, long time. Because she keeps filing these discovery motions for stuff that doesn't exist. She got warned about that a few months ago, that you continue to file motions for things that don't exist. So every time a motion came out for a discovery, the internet would break. Oh, look, they're hiding from Anne. She's filing more of these motions. And I'm like, my God, are they not listening? What's going on here? But
Right.
yeah, there's been a lot of conspiracies around this case. And then it's funny that the judge called the defense star witness the conspiracy theorist.
Right, because effectively the 68 terabytes of discovery is the same issue for the defense as it is for the prosecution. They also have 68 terabytes of discovery to have to wade through, and by all accounts, according to EDB, that discovery is handed over in no organized fashion whatsoever. Just boom, here you go. Particularly FBI stuff. They just get given big, massive data dumps, and the prosecution is in the same boat as the defense. And we're not going to cover it in this live stream, but Anne Taylor talks about how much of a massive step it is to be able to get the PDF files to be unlocked, and she's going on and on about these extra steps, and it's literally just one button to press.
Right,
to
the
unlock those
prosecution,
files.
do you think they didn't just go collect a bunch of random videos around town and got lucky, and the minute they turned them on, oh, there's a car. No, they had to go through all of that, watch it for hours, figure out timelines, figure out what's important, what's not, especially once they got his name from the IGG. And then they started putting it together. This car we keep seeing all over town, this camera, in this guy's car, all the things that came after that, right? And I think that, they had to go through all that, like you said, themselves, and figure out what do we have here. And
Right.
we've heard a lot of defense, though, lately complaining of the same thing. And maybe they do need a better system in 2025 to deal with these massive discovery dumps. Because I've heard it in Delphi, I've heard it here. I know Karen Reed's probably got a massive ton of discovery,
Absolutely.
So maybe there's an answer out there. They need to figure it out, whatever it is, right?
Perhaps I'm doing a reverse callback to suggest that maybe Amazon AI, how it puts things in people's carts with unwittingly, could organize something for FBI discovery data dumps.
There you go. There you go. We solved it for them.
About this, particularly about the 7 days. That's newer information
Oh wait, we
to
haven't
me
got
now.
closed captions. I just
But
realized.
the carrier request forms tell me I should at least have that.
There we go.
I want the court to know that we have had motions to compel on this very issue. We have had different bits of information.
For the 7 days that are after December?
No, Your Honor, because the 7 days is something that's newer and has been brought to my attention
Our
more
motion to
recently.
compel related to timing advance records for November 13.
Our discovery requests were for all of Mr. Kohberger's timing advance records. Our motions to compel covered all of them too. I have this carrier request now that says 7 days, and I have the affidavit now that says 7 days. Those are not things that I always knew when we were litigating this issue.
Okay.
Those are new bits of information. To me, it is a little bit problematic that there's been things that have changed and there might be records out there. Given what you have now,
Rachel, she is changing the subject. She's scrambling, backpedaling, reversing hard to try and pull herself out of this pit that she and Cyree have dropped each other into, I think.
That's a good way to put it.
with the affidavit was 7 days. If you imagine you didn't know that,
They
and
didn't.
I understand your confusion and concern previously. What I
Your
don't
confusion.
understand it is now. In
She
light
is
of the
confusion.
evidence, I don't understand Mr. Ray's accusations without addressing the 7 days that he had that information when he submitted his affidavit.
Bingo.
he is available to testify if the court wishes for him to.
It's his obligation and your obligation to establish that evidence of that the state has this.
You know what?
And you haven't done that. His
Yes.
affidavit is quite
Cyree's sitting
extensive,
there on
and
Zoom
he said-
waiting on standby just in case, because the judge there was the question, was he going to testify in that hearing, and the judge said no, his affidavit's fine, but he can be on standby on Zoom. So Cyree's sitting on the sidelines somewhere on the Zoom listening to the judge talk shit about him.
That's
It's
so
fun.
funny.
Isn't
That's
it?
so funny. Like,
It's like,
yes,
no,
in
I
the
don't need
Corey
him to testify, Ann. Y'all need to be putting down your proof on paper, lady.
Right, like in the Corey Richards, there was a motions hearing at the start of the week for her, and the judge there was like, Judge M was like, no, I can read. I don't need you to give me all these bells and whistles. I can read. Answer my
Right.
questions. Same sort of no nonsense stuff. Love.
seems to
Yes.
ignore that issue.
Your Honor, I believe that that issue is touched on with his knowledge that these kinds of records existed a long time before.
He said that in a very general way about that without reference to the 7 days. And he had supposedly received them from some FBI expert to look at for his company, and then was told not to use them. So I don't know, maybe the FBI got them in a way that they weren't supposed to at that time, for all I know. He didn't name names, he
Boom.
didn't identify it, he didn't put it.
The other thing is, yes, those records existed if they had known about Bryan Kohberger at the time, which he wasn't on their persons of interest at all.
No.
And like you said at the beginning of this little section, Salty, his phone was off. Was it off or airplane mode?
Well, the state says it was off. Ann's never disputed that yet.
Mm.
And the PCA does say that it appeared, because it says it appeared to be off because of their experience as law enforcement, criminals will sometimes turn their phone off or place it in airplane mode. So at the time, I don't think they were really positive which way it went, but I think evidence has shown them now that it was turned off.
Right.
But Ann's yet to address that. Well, she did by way of alibi. She didn't come out and say his phone lost reception. She's never once said that phrase. She just said he was out over here driving stargazing in the countryside. And she never
Lol.
once said that his phone lost reception, explaining the
And
2-hour gap yet. But she wants us to focus hard on that 8-hour gap of the roommates and all that fiasco. But let's ignore, this 3 to 5 gap where my client has no phone.
Right. And then the judge, again, we're not going to touch on it in this one, but when they're talking about the alibi in the motions about the alibi, and he says, how can he prove that he was out there stargazing? Like, hilarious.
Put into any context. The state had indicated and they provided AT&T's sworn testimony that they only keep them for 7 days. And yet he makes the accusations that he did in his affidavit without addressing that 7-day issue at all. And so I guess my point is if you want to cross-examine the witnesses about why didn't they rely on the AT&T timing information, you've got to show some factual foundation that was available to them by the time Mr. Kohberger was on their radar as it relates to November 13. And I'm not seeing that as the problem.
My first question to Special Agent Balance, who would be the person who would have gotten these through a different channel, through the FBI, would have been, did you get them? Because I've heard different things along the case, asking him the question is really what I wanted to be able to do, and that's why I opposed this motion and prepared it as I did.
Tell you what, I'll let you ask that question outside the presence of the jury.
Thank you.
At the time of trial.
So that's all-
That will
all of
satisfy
that.
me. Thank you.
So, pause.
Yeah.
Wait, Judge is about to admonish here, and it's great. So, we'll listen to that. But after all of that, that whole motion, all she wanted was the ability to voir dire Nick Balance outside the presence of the jury. So check what his answers are going to be before the jury's there, and she's like, okay, thanks. Like,
All of that for that, right?
Yep,
Mm-hmm.
right. Akasha says, by themselves, any of those things could have happened, but not when they all happened at the same time the murders were committed. Too many things. I agree, Akasha. There's, I mean, one or two maybe, but it's
Yeah.
not. It's not. It's not likely.
Yeah, it's so odd because I sit so differently with this and Delphi, and if I've look, there's been so much with this case, alternate suspects and theories and all these things. Long before Ann Taylor ever brought them up, YouTube went nuts with this case. I went down every single one of those rabbit holes, and they all turned up with nothing. Instead, an entire town of college students were doxxed on social media. That's what happened, to the point where they don't want to talk. They're shut down. People have a problem with the fact, well, nobody's talking. Well, no shit. Would you want to talk to social media after this event happened in your hometown? One or two start speaking out. It's natural. People talk. But then what began to come out of YouTube was, it got really horrible for a long time. And it wasn't pretty. And it's still not with this case. It's odd to me how not controversial, but the way it will try to divide people up, and it's like this case made me see where that's when it started. Like, you have to dig in. You have to be on Karen Reed's side or you're not. You have to be on Rick Allen's side or you're not. And like, when did we get there in America where we don't need a trial anymore? Like you said earlier, that's why we have trials. And I thought, I love that. I love that you said that. I was smiling because that's how I feel. We need trials.
Yes, Steve from Publicly Buzzed has been talking about this a bit on Twitter in the last couple of days. He's been hesitant and tentative to have like open, objective discourse on social media about these kind of things, because people generally tend to be so very binary on these big cases, and it's alienating, and you just don't want to dip your foot into the water of discussion, because you're going to be like piled on by either side, depending on where, and not if you're trying to debunk anything, just opening a conversation.
Right. It had
It's
exactly. Opening that conversation, like you said, and there was just so many. It was really nasty for a while. You couldn't go into certain chats and even ask a question or disagree with somebody else's comment and try to open that conversation without, oh my God, being mob attacked. And I've had Publicly Buzzed on the show. He was a guest because I've chatted way with him for a long time on Twitter. I've followed all his Kohberger coverage. I know where he began, I know how he got there, and I know where he stands now. And I give him so much credit. You know what I mean? Because he had the balls, excuse my French, to come out and say what he has said. And I appreciated that, knowing what I know about this case, because he knows the same stuff that I know. And like he said, the crazier your thumbnail was, the crazier your headline was, the bigger your audience was going to be. Bottom line. And they were all supporting Bryan Kohberger. And it be only based on, he looks normal, he's smart, he's a college student. Are y'all saying normal can't hurt you? Because that's a danger to society when you put that out there and try to get thousands of people to believe that. Because I'm more terrified of the guy in the BMW at the red light than I am the homeless guy on the corner. You know what I'm saying?
100%, 100% hiding in plain sight. And
exactly.
And like Simi says, where is it? Simi says basically, I'm leaning towards. Here we go. I'm definitely suspicious of him. The science will tip the scale right now. Yes,
Yeah.
tip my scale right now. I don't know.
Well,
This is
you know,
like
the
this.
thing
What if
about it
it's really
is with that science, that DNA, there's people making a big deal about the DNA under Maddie's fingernails, and there was a mixture, and it was obviously transfer, quote unquote, DNA, because you know that's what it is. It's just
Yeah.
transfer, people.
Mhm.
So it's normal. She was at a bar that night. She went to the grub truck. Blah blah blah. She didn't wash her hands thoroughly before she went to bed. Maybe Kaylee did. I don't know. Wasn't there, but of course, there's going to be some DNA there. Probably was it a mixture? It was not ID'd as Bryan Kohberger's. Doesn't surprise me, but they're making a big deal about that. But we're going to ignore that DNA on the sheath like that. That doesn't matter. But the mixture they're not even saying it is Kohberger's matters for some reason because they believe that mixture would show the other perpetrator or the real perpetrator. Still ignoring the sheath DNA. I have a hard time because of the sheath DNA. Do you know what I mean? I get
Exactly.
transfer, I get touch, but not in this case.
No,
No.
like Akasha says, dudes all over their houses, all of the time, and they're
Mhm.
out that night drinking, and
Yeah,
hanging out with friends.
that
Who's not?
house was full
What's
of
to say they didn't
DNA.
have a hug or like anything,
Exactly.
like anything? It's
And
ludicrous.
you know what else?
Ludicrous.
I would expect other male DNA to be present in their bedrooms because Maddie and Kaylee, come on, guys, they were adults, young women. They both had
Mhm,
boyfriends. There's going to be male DNA in their bedrooms, right? Other than Bryan Kohberger's. But his was the only one on that sheet. And
yes.
both boyfriends gave up their DNA immediately. There was no fight about it. They
Mm,
gave it up, you know.
exactly.
And if you had just went in there and unalived your girlfriend and knew that your sheath was missing, would you be so hot and heavy to give up your DNA? You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
You
Like
wouldn't. Yeah,
Princey said. Princey says he ordered the exact knife on Amazon. We'll get there, Princey. Maybe AI made him do that. Maybe he didn't
yeah.
have those things in his cart. Go
And
back to
made
the
him
being a
search
judge.
for a replacement. Hey, I was like, "Oops, I heard you lost yours. You might need another."
And I'm not upset, but I just for Mr. Ray's information, because he wasn't here the first day I started this trial with you folks. I said, I don't want theatrics. I don't want accusations that aren't supported with evidence about supposed bad conduct of the parties. You're all professionals. I respect you all. And the accusations he made in there are very concerning.
Mm-hmm.
The kinds of accusations, if true, that would get people disbarred. And so, without any evidence and apparently sidestepping the clear explanation, he makes those. And so, that doesn't make me happy.
Judge is
And to
not
address
mad.
the
He's
court's
just
concerns with
disappointed.
what's been raised, I think the only issue out there,
Wait,
I
I think
have the
that's it.
2 search warrants.
Oh no.
The state asked for the AT&T
One more
timing
minute.
advance records in our search warrants. The state wanted that information from Mr. Kohberger. We did not receive it. I did not receive those records from AT&T. I do not have them. Thank you, Your Honor.
All right. There's not been a showing that those records were available, and I think it would be unfairly prejudicial to try to impeach the testimony of the agent that somehow he hid or didn't provide or didn't use records that he didn't have available to him. So absent some factual showing that he had them available, I'm not going to allow questions about that, and I'm not going to allow testimony about that. Now, if you want to voir dire him before he
For
testifies in
now.
front of the jury, I'll allow that. And if you show a factual basis for it, I'll allow it. But you haven't at this point.
I appreciate the opportunity to ask the question outside the presence of the jury. Thank you.
Thank you.
Boom.
It's
Right. So Judge ain't playing. Now, we'll do a quick little song break just to cleanse the palate before we go into the last, well, probably the last. We can keep talking. We can go back to the Micah razor blades. Yes. We can go we can go back into some more of the stuff on autism and ASD and being autistic, because I've still got more to play there if chat would like. But shall we do a quick little music break palate cleanse? Let me just do a couple of things. Salty, if you need to go to the bathroom or make a coffee or something, go
Great.
for it.
Thank you.
My pleasure. I'll change our background to music break. It's just a couple little steps here. I've got a new song, chat. So chat, if you're watching, replay crew, hi, thanks for being here. Chat, if you think that this means we're not coming back, we are coming back. But let's just do a bit of chair dancing. And let me see, like, so many songs. Which one was I thinking? Oh, I know. Wait. Capital B, alphabetic. Take away, stop screen, all the things. There we go. Now I can see what I'm doing here. Enjoy, chat.
Bait and switch, which is which, up, down, turn around, ruminating, percolating, treading ancient ground, lion, beauty, butterfly, monarch, queen, don't ask her why, pull her wings off, pin her down, tree falls in forest, not a sound, first time blip, second it's coincidence, third time it's a pattern so uplifted, nope, not here for your shit. Devil you know becomes the devil you keep, toss and turn and lose and sleep, cocoon abandoned, it ain't random, now I'm counting sheep, good, bad, shape-shifting, yes, no, vampire grifting, mirror hold it up, narcissist, oh hey what's up, first time blip, second coincidence, third time it's a pattern validated, nah, not here for your shit. Devil you know becomes the devil you keep, toss and turn and lose and sleep, cocoon abandoned, it ain't random, now I'm counting sheep, good, bad, shape-shifting, yes, no, vampire grifting, mirror hold it up, narcissist, oh hey what's up, first time lip, second coincidence, third time it's a pattern so uplifted, yep, you can keep your shit. How dare you search it, that's assault, took a minute, now revolt, walking, running, breaking through, cause in the end not me, it's you. First time blip, second coincidence, third time it's a pattern, absolutely, y'all can keep your shit. Invisible child, it's fucking wild, oh hell no, see me now, and I see you, oh yes I do, I'm uplifted, so validated.
Yo, whoa. Salty's back. I'm back. There you go, chat. Palate cleanser. I went to the bathroom, had my other piece of cheese. Let me change that back to our background with, yikes, Mr Kohberger behind us. Bit terrifying. Thanks for being here, everybody. Chat, Salty. Salty's on mute. She must have gone to go make a coffee. Let me. Hey, don't forget, all the stuff to the channel. So super chats, super stickers, buy me a coffee. There's a QR code up the back there. Yee, Bryan Kohberger. All go in the drawer for a Miss Shorty merch tee. Ava's mom won last weekend. Life Artist won the weekend before. Simi, Holly Street donated hers to Simi from the weekend before that. These are being drawn tomorrow night in our top 10 villains and idiots moments from the Karen Reid trial. Version 1. Trial kicks off Tuesday. Did we know that? Tuesday, I'll be doing nightly recaps from Thursday night for 10 nights. 10 nights of Shorty. You can't make this shit up. Salty's back. Hi, Salty.
Hey.
Rachel says, Miss Shorty and Salty, thanks so much for this. I had to walk Costco today. I had to walk to Costco today, and it was oh my goodness, my screen's doing weird thing. Okay, and it was a lot with CRPS.
Oh, goodness. You had to, bless you. You're strong. You are a very strong woman.
Amen. Well, we're glad you're here, Rachel. Thank you so much for joining. Pammy says that was a fun night. Razor blades. And it's so comfy. Simmy's shirt is so comfy. She's got the berry pink Miss Shorty music one. There's so many cool ones. Salty, you still need to tell me which of the mugs you want so I can send you a Miss Shorty mug as a thank you for being
That's right.
adult.
Well,
Yes.
I do need to get one. I got a cold coffee right now, and so I do need a mug for my desk. I'll use me a Miss
Wait.
Shorty mug.
Uno momento. I forgot. I should have something. I meant to bring this. Here's one I prepared earlier. Hang on. I'm back. I was also muted. This might be useful for you, Salty. It's a lidded tumbler.
That's my favorite kind.
I haven't used it yet. I was going to make a coffee, but I was already 15 minutes late, so I didn't. I just did this.
That one reminds me of the one I use on my thumbnails a lot. I have like a little hot cup of coffee sitting there with steam coming out the top, and I just have the circle avatar on the cup. So that's pretty cool that you did that. I love that.
Yes,
Love
our
that.
beautiful Matilda. Beautiful Matilda has done so much amazing work for the Miss Shorty merch store. All proceeds from the merch store go to paying my beautiful mods, by the way. So get on there and choose something. Other than the free Karen Reid stuff, that stuff goes, the proceeds from that go to Karen's Defense Fund. So it's all happening. I ain't no grifter. We ain't got no grift. Thank you so much, Carla, for gifting out another membership. Carla, you're in the draw for next weekend again. Welcome, you Shorty. Simi says her berry pink tea matches her base the same as on her display pic there. So one more thing, just better press this sparkle. Oh my goodness, so many videos. Salty, I have 50 almost music videos of my own Suno music in my StreamYard. It gets rather clogged. That's for Carla. Thank you, Carla. Okay, now shall we go to the last section? But I think we maybe might go, depending on how we're going for time, we might go back to the autistic stuff if chat would like. But let me go. What do we do here? Present screen. Oh my God! Literally every time, Salty, I mutter this out loud. What do we do here? Present screen.
Yeah.
It's got to be this one. Hang on. Got to check. They all look the same. It's all law and crime. It all looks the same. Is it that one? No. Is it that one? No. Is it this one? No. Is it this one? Yes. Okay. Share now, but we can't see it because late. Oh, there we go. Boom shakalaka. So this is the Amazon put those things in his cart, right? Do you want to give Chad a little bit of a preface on this one, Salty?
Yeah, so what we know is they did Amazon search warrants like a long time ago, right? So and all that stuff was sealed, and this judge finally come out and said, enough's enough with the sealing stuff. You got both sides were asking things to be sealed that didn't need to be sealed. So then things began to come out, and the Amazon search stuff started coming out. Now the defense has been really good all along with a gag order coming into hearings and letting little things slip out and putting little things out in documents, and the state never did any of that. They just did like, whatever, whatever it. Well, now then they didn't hold back once the judge kind of told everybody to chill out. So it started coming out that they had done the Amazon searches, and allegedly he purchased a K-bar knife back in March of 2022 when this happened. Yeah. So several months before he moved to Moscow, or to Pullman rather. And then he purchased it when he still lived at his parents' home. It was apparently purchased under the family account. And then at some point, he also searched for like a replacement sheath for the knife. And so now,
And a sharpener.
yeah,
Am I right in saying there's a knife sharpener as well? Was that there?
originally he purchased the knife, the sheath, and a knife sharpener. Yes, ma'am.
Right.
That was the
Right.
original purchase. And then
Mm.
he was searching for replacements after the crimes. And so the defense doesn't want any of that stuff to come in, of course. That doesn't look good for my client, right? Especially an Amazon purchase. And apparently it also looks as if he purchased a gift card and then use the gift card to purchase the knife with, like an Amazon gift card. And
Sneaky.
then so there's also click history. You know how when you're searching for a product on Amazon, we've all done it. If you're shopping on Amazon, you look for a product, you may search through some of the other recommendations it shows you, right? But you have to literally you literally have to go searching it out, right? First. And then it
Right.
starts feeding you different things. So when he was looking for his K-bar or a K-bar, different things were popping in there. They want all that click activity, they call it, out of there. Because, that wasn't really him searching, that was AI suggesting it.
The inference, or it might even be the suggestion by the defense, is that actually AI dropped those things into his cart that he didn't. Because
You
and then
think?
we'll get to it, but Judge
Ooh,
even says, I think we pretty much all understand how it works. For anything to end up in
yeah,
someone's cart, you have to click it, yes, and put it in your
yes,
cart.
right, yeah. Well, they were saying, what Ann Taylor was saying was that he really wasn't searching for these items. AI just was suggesting it to start with. And then I'm like, okay, even if that happened, did they suggest you go out and commit a crime with it as well? AI, I'm talking about. The whole thing didn't make any sense. That argument was like, what are we doing here, Anne, with this one? It was one of those kind of motions. But that's what it pertains to. That doesn't look good, for the client to be purchasing a K-bar knife on Amazon, the type of knife and the sheath that was left there. That doesn't look good, so she doesn't want it in.
It's, with all of these motions, as with any
Mm.
good defense attorney, they're going to try to keep out as much evidence as possible or limit how it comes in, and particularly in the death penalty case. I mean, they are advocating for their client vigorously,
Mhm.
but come on now, ma'am, please, let's
Yeah. It makes you wonder what the conversation between her and Brian's really been, how that's really went, especially considering the man she describes to us now. Is that really what you're dealing with, Ann Taylor? Is somebody who doesn't want to listen, wants you to
right.
fight tooth and nail when you know you don't got a chance? When is a conversation going to come up as to, Brian, you need to take the next step and we need to end this, right? Does that
Right.
ever, that can't come up with someone like him. Not if
No,
he's going to
and again,
question traffic stops. He's going to question the death
exactly.
penalty and everything else.
And I go back to that distinction of it not being necessarily mutually exclusive, but if we were to opine that perhaps not only is Mr. Kohberger neurodivergent, autistic, but if he potentially is also narcissistic in his tendencies, leaning perhaps towards psychopathy, that he's never going to admit, he's never going to just plead out on this, because in that,
No.
if it were to be true, that kind of person never ever admits wrongdoing ever. Before we hit play on this one, Heather, hi Heather, by the way, good to see you, and thank you for the compliment on my lemon colored top. Heather asks, and we have talked about this, but there are people coming in and out, so let's go there again. So quick temperature check. As of this moment, is the overall take on Kohberger guilty or not guilty, just at this moment? Also, whatever take on it you have, has it changed since first? Salty, what do you think? You've done a lot of document deep dives, many. That's your thing. What are your thoughts?
I've always felt since I read the PCA, they had strong probable cause on this guy. Right? And then as things came out, the documents alone are pretty much standalone for me. They're really all they have against Bryan Kohberger is a sheath with DNA that matches him, Unequivocally, they took his actual DNA swab. It matches the sheath. So you have that. Then you have the grainy car footage that looks a lot like his car, but we don't know if it is. You can't tell by what we've seen so far. So we have that. Then we have phone data that shows him driving toward Moscow, and then for 2 hours, 3 a.m. to 5 a.m., during the crimes, that phone is offline, period. Then it comes back on right outside of Moscow, heading out of town, going home the long way through the country. It's caught on camera where cameras are located, and they see it coming back into Pullman, Washington, 5 a.m.-ish that morning after the murders had occurred, going right back to his apartment, right where they saw it leaving from earlier in the night, or earlier that morning when he left, headed toward Moscow. So that's all you have right now. There's no other DNA on Bryan Kohberger in that house except for what's on the sheath. You have Dylan's bushy eyebrows, saw a guy clad in black. You have the grainy car footage, and then you got cell phone pings. And then a window where there's no phone at all. But Ann Taylor says, well, he was just way over here at the park area in the countryside, driving around, gazing at the moon and the stars because he can't sleep at night. And nobody can back that up, but except for those phone records the state has. That's what she literally said, that the state would partially corroborate his alibi using their own phone records, the same very phone records she's disputing now. So I don't know. I lean toward guilt. I'll put it that way. And especially given his background, a little bit more about his history, just looking at him in general, where he's been from what we do know, it's kind of like, yeah, maybe so on this one. You know what I mean? It would not shock me at all.
Princey says, then he took a shower and a selfie and drove back.
Yeah. No.
And
Here's the thing about that selfie picture. That came after that. The timestamp on that selfie was 10:30 a.m. He was back in Moscow that morning at 9:20 something. So it was like 10 minutes he was there. And then he drove back home, and then that selfie picture was taken. But super creepy, right? I mean, come on. That's on the phone, and it's there, and he looks pale. To me, he
tired.
looks yeah,
He looks
he
tired.
does. He was up all night long. And literally now, after that picture was taken, he was literally up all day long. And then that evening, between 5 p.m. and 8 p.m., that phone goes completely offline again for 3 hours. That night of the murders. What were you doing for those 3 hours? Driving around the same countryside again with no signal?
So that's
Getting
interesting.
rid of things, maybe?
That's what Micah asks. Salty Sleuth, they never found any of his clothing that night? So do you
Nothing
think
yet.
perhaps he was...
Nothing. Now, we know that they did take a lot of items from the Pennsylvania home. There was not that much in his Pullman apartment. Once they went in, they were searching it while he was on his trip back home to Pennsylvania. They went in. And when they got in there was no shower curtain. The one thing everybody makes a big deal about in this case, why not? Where was his shower curtain? All these things, but no shower curtain. There was a Amazon Fire Stick. I'm going off memory, guys. Like a mattress. It was really not a lot there. But when they got to the parents' house, remember, he had just been living his entire life there up until a few months before these murders. So everything he owned and had was at that house still. Everything from high school all the way up through his college career, all of it. That's where a bulk of what they got came back from. And there were 3 separate knives collected. And it's odd because 2 of the knives have a descriptor that came with them telling you what kind they were. But the very first thing on that Pennsylvania warrant return, it just says knife. That's it. No description, no nothing, just knife. And there's clothing on there as well. That was what we were getting back to, so I got off track. But clothing was taken, dark clothing, shoes, because there was a latent print in front of the door, in front of Dylan's door, a latent bloody footprint. So they took shoes, they took dark clothing, they took the dark mask. Yeah, they took a lot of stuff out of there. So we don't know what ties to the crime yet and what doesn't, for real. We don't know yet what evidence
That's
they
what the
do
trial's
have.
for. That's what the trial's for, Salty.
Yeah, and
We
there
know
was just some
that.
strange things about that evidence list though, because there was an item that they took a photograph of but left behind. And I'm like racking my brain going, what the hell did they take a picture of that they couldn't take with them into the you know what I'm saying? Because it was his parents' home, remember that? So I don't know. It was weird. There was a note to Bryan, or a note from Bryan to his dad, a note from Bryan from Montana. When he was in Montana, it reads that it was from Bryan when he was like in Montana to his dad. There was a page, an underlining in a book, page 118. If you refer to Elliot Rodgers' manifesto and read page 118, you'll go, what the hell? Things like that. So considering all of that, I have to, I don't know. What are we looking at sitting there in that blue shirt? Do you know what I mean? What are we actually looking at?
Heather says here, the body cam audio was a little wild during that search, right? If I'm remembering correctly. Do you have recollection of that, Salty?
The body cam audio from Bryan Kohberger's search.
I guess. I'm not as familiar with
Well, we
you.
have the media was out there. I have to go back through my old stuff and look because Bryan Kohberger wasn't there. You know what I mean? He was gone. He was on the road heading back to Pennsylvania when they searched his apartment. Oh, they left it. Yeah. Whatever it was in the house, they took a picture of something but left the item behind. And I always felt that to be odd. I can
That
figure
is
out
odd.
what that. Yeah.
And then Gigi says, I want to know why the speaker in the house did a handshake with Brian's phone. Is that true? As in
We
at
don't know.
King
Okay,
Road?
well, it's not been brought up in a document, but it has been heavily talked about. There is a possibility because they did serve warrants upon the service there and everything. Did his phone handshake with the Wi-Fi in the house? Right? We don't know. Steve Gonzalez, Kaylee Gonzalez's father, mentions it at some point, but you have to get to know before people go set out to. There's a lot of people that judge those parents. And when I say those parents, I'm talking directly about Steve and Christy Gonzalez, Kaylee's parents. They are heavily judged, but they are who they are. They have the right to come out and talk whenever they damn well feel like it. You don't have to agree. You don't look at it, but learn them and learn the way they speak and the way they talk. And Steve will say certain things and he says them a certain way, right? And once I learned him and I learned Christy, it's like, I get these two now. I can follow their conversation now where it was hard to in the beginning. And I think a lot of that, Steve wasn't real kind when he spoke out against law enforcement in the beginning. And that also created issues that he didn't mean to happen. He was just voicing his.
That's an angry parent grieving and
Exactly.
frustrated because there was no answers.
Exactly. And everybody took that a certain kind of way and ran with it. Then then they turned on him. It was just a whole fiasco. But he alluded to there was a possibility of that happening, but we don't know for sure. So I've not seen it in a document anywhere yet.
Heather also said before that she did lean towards not guilty, and now she's feeling more like guilty, based on another creator's sort of persuasions. I don't think that it's really helpful. I mean, me personally, I just want to see, like Salty, the documents, and that I want to hear the evidence presented and the way the prosecution, the state presents their case and tries their case, and decide then. Because I mean, let's be honest, most YouTube creators are somewhat charismatic. It serves a purpose for some to try to get buy-in from their community on certain things. And I think that goes back to Salty, you talking about the clickbaity thumbnails and the outrageous sort of proclamations by certain
Yeah.
creators, and we know there's not in this case necessarily, but actually also there are creators who will say out and out lies and then be outed for those lies and just kind of laugh about it when they've misled entire communities.
Well,
Salty,
the
you've talked
Idaho
about.
opened my eyes to that, right? Because I saw things happening with this case, what creators were doing behind the scenes, and a lot of that came out with a couple of creators. I'm not going to go into names and stuff, but they know who they are, and they know what they were conspiring to do behind the scenes. And stuff like that bothers me. And it happened in the Delphi case as well. And you have to be, that's why I'm always saying be careful on those YouTube streets, right? Because I can go into a channel and they're offering me a different perspective, but what is that perspective, right? If it's some weird theory that I have no receipts for it and things like that, it's like where did it come from? How did we get here? What are we talking about? I need to investigate this. And then if I look at it and I'm like, oh, seriously? This is what we're doing? And it got that way with Kohberger's case. I literally sat and watched people for a week and a half stare at Linda Lane footage that was leaked and watch this black pickup truck that sat there parked, and they saw all kinds of activity going down. They saw Dylan running to the truck. They saw her with Murphy, carrying Murphy. They saw shadows, heard people singing. They heard Xana screaming. Not one time did they glance over at the left side of that screen and see that light-colored sedan circling its prey. Not one time.
Mm.
And I'm like, why? Are
Yeah.
y'all scared of that car? Because I wasn't. I'm like, who the fuck's in that car? I couldn't tell you whose car it was or who was in it, but it's very suspicious over there.
It's just disappointing to me that I mean, it's
Mhm.
all one thing to speculate in your private life with your friends or your workmates or whatever about things and opine about things and throw out wild suggestions. But it's disappointing to me that there are some creators who don't understand the responsibility or don't care about the
Don't care.
responsibility that they hold and the power they hold to influence and that stuff can be really damaging to not only the victims and their families, but to the case itself. Public opinion it's misinformation. There's a duty of care,
Well,
I think, for
it's like,
creators
and
to be a bit more responsible.
yeah, and Publicly Buzz touched on that too. It's like if you started to reverse the way you covered Kohberger, or if you tried to get away from all that craziness and just start covering facts as you know them kind of thing, people would turn on you. Didn't want nothing to do with you. I saw another creator, try it just to see, and it was like, oh my God, the community came after him. I was like, oh damn, it's like once they became dug in on this case, it was no holds bar. And I was like, wow, what is going on in these YouTube streets? I don't understand what's happening anymore. It's very eye opening. And then to
And
see
also,
how other cases play out on social media is strange, isn't it?
it is. And let's be honest here. Most of the big creators, the creators who have enough of a following or subscriber base, that this is clicks and views and sort of outrageous statements or assertions get you clicks and views, and that's very
Yeah.
monetarily driven, I'd say, for a lot of creators. And regardless, let's set aside the money that one might make from views and people buying into what you're selling.
Mhm.
It's more rewarding from a dopamine hit point of view to have a lot of people watching your stuff and
Oh, it
commenting than
is
it
for
is
some of
to
these
have.
people.
Well, I mean,
Mhm.
that's human nature, and it
Well,
depends where your integrity lies, really, as to whether
exactly.
you want to do it for that. Mm.
That's what I say. It's about integrity. I promise you, I was hesitant to cover Idaho 4 because I was in Idaho 4 long before I began to stream. And I thought, you know what? I'm just going to cover it the way I see it, right? Not the way I think people want me to cover it, because I'm not doing that. And I easily could have come out here and done just that. And then I would have been just as guilty as all those people who grew their channels on the backs of the victims of Idaho 4.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just being blunt when I say that because it's not the first time I've said it. And that's exactly what they did. And it was really hard to get away from that once they got there.
I
And
mean,
then,
Steve from Publicly Buzzed is very open with the fact that
yes,
he burst into YouTubing with his take on Kohberger, and he actually doesn't have that video up anymore, even though it's his highest ever views. He was monetized with one live stream or one video, and he's kind of it makes him feel icky, I think now,
yeah,
because he's
exactly.
changed his.
Yeah, he went
Mm.
through it, you know, I know he did, and he saw, but he was smart enough to see it, and he was smart enough to do something about it, where the rest of them didn't, you know, and that's the sad part. So,
Absolutely. And Simi says integrity matters. There's only one, so that's why there's only a handful of true crime channels I watch anymore. Yes, agreed. Laura suggests BK will be found guilty. However, I'm not convinced they have the right person. Interesting. I still question how he unalived 4 people in a short amount of time. We'll be watching closely. Yes, that's what testimony and evidence and the way the state is able to or not weave and present their
well,
case.
that is a good question, because that's been a if you want to get down to the actual case of it, that's a question. The time frame, because that car goes behind that apartment building at 4:08, the lights go out. It speeds away at 4:20. That's my timeline in my mind. I got to give that dude enough time now to park that car, get out, and make his way into that house, up that stairs to that 3rd floor, straight to Maddie Mogan's bedroom. How much time? We're talking 12 minutes. So the defense now says he can hardly walk across the floor. Pretty much is what she said. He's got all these,
That's what he's a runner,
yeah.
though. Come on now, that's ludicrous.
Yeah. So is he going to get up there and say that he could barely move? How are they going to prove that someone could or couldn't? We've had so many people weigh in on this issue, right? I mean, many, many people from all walks of life, law enforcement, criminals, you name it, they've all weighed in on, was that enough time? I think it was.
With
If
a
you
sharp knife
consider,
and
yeah,
inebriated, sharp knife and inebriated sort of perhaps
look, these
sleep.
girls were, Maddie was having her a really good time that night. She was visibly intoxicated at the grub truck. Nothing wrong. The girl was of age. She was with Kaylee. Kaylee wasn't as intoxicated, or didn't appear to be. Let me put it that way. So when they got home and ate their carbonaro and took Murphy out, whatever, Maddie passed out. Maddie was gone. Kaylee, I think it might have took her a little minute to get there, you know, the dog and stuff and whatever. But did Maddie, if this guy got in there quickly in the dark and got up those stairs and went straight to Maddie's room, Maddie was quick and easy. Now, the issue was Kaylee in that bed, or did she come in that door and to check on her friend because her dog heard a noise? She got up to go see, and when she opened Maddie's door, there's this man, and he attacks her, tosses her up on that bed where she's found. They can't prove either way to me that girl was in that bed. It doesn't matter. It was happened so fast. You know what I mean? Whatever happened up there on that 3rd floor happened first, and it happened fast. And that dude was hustling to get down them stairs and get out of there. And did 2 more, or at least 1 more victim appear out of nowhere that you had to contend with quickly. And then lo and behold, there's a 4th one. Now I really got to get the fuck up out of here. When do you realize you left your sheath? How bad do you beat yourself up over that mistake?
Ugh, forever.
Forever and a day. That time thing is the issue, you know, for a lot of people. And it's a legitimate concern. I get it. But I don't know how they're going to prove you could or couldn't. You know, it's your agility. How much, like you said, he was an avid runner. We knew he was into kickboxing. He was all these things. He was did he train for things like this? Right? In his mind, was he? And from what they've said, like in the Garrett discovery, if y'all don't know about that, it's a whole other show. So allegedly there was an Instagram account tied to Bryan Kohberger in the very, very, very beginning. It was scrubbed from the internet very quickly. There was a video attached, And I've heard about this video for a very long time. I've never seen it and I cannot confirm it. But it was a video about kickboxing and a knife.
Mm.
And that's all I know. And I don't know if that's a legit thing or not, but it appears to be. So, you know, was this guy, you know what I mean? If he was preparing to do something like this, he probably would have physically been preparing to do it as well.
Mm. I was watching a lot of the Interview Room. I don't watch that channel much at all anymore, but back around the
Yeah.
time and before the house was being demolished, right? And what's his name? Chris was talking about how this goes to what Rachel's saying. Which she says she believes that he was had looked over that house, you know, from afar. Often she just
Mm-hmm.
doesn't know how to prove it, and that was one of the things Chris was saying back at the time. You know, like he went and was looking at the vantage point from behind the house. You know, all he
Well,
went.
yeah, there's a road right behind the house, and it's called Walenta Drive. And he actually uses that route the morning of the murders. When he's
Uh-huh.
circling the house, he's going up and down Walenta Drive, and it turns into Ridge Road for a second, and then back. Yeah, but when in that time of year, and we have video of people who are there, boots on the ground. You drive down that road, even at night. The foliage is gone off the trees because at that time of year, you can see that entire house back there. You just drive by slowly, you can see everything back there. You can tell when all the lights are off or on. And then if you move in even closer and you get behind the apartments where this guy parks, you got a straight line view of Madison Mogen's bedroom. And we all know it's Maddie's bedroom. There's a big giant pink M and a pink cowboy boot in her window, and we have photos of her in that bedroom. It's Maddie's bedroom. And if you park back there behind the house, you can clearly see Maddie's room. And you can certainly not stalk, but surveil people from Willenta Drive. You can even park back. There's a little parking pad back there by the arbitrarium. You can get out, walk around. You blend right in as a college student. Walk around and do all the snooping you want to do.
Mm. Rachel says, we looked at those apartments when my son moved down there, and I said, no way, it gave me the creeps. Mm.
Really? The
Yeah.
Queen Road apartments, Rachel? That's crazy, girl.
Mm. Chilling,
It's
really.
it really, I mean, and another thing that's really mind-boggling is the fact that he didn't get to Washington until June of 2022, and these murders occurred in November.
Mm.
And how well, you just moved there. You know the area well. So let me ask you a question. If you were a college student, lived at home your entire life, all the way through your adulthood life, come on, you're knocking 30 by this time. You get ready to move to a new state. Are you going to start looking around at websites and restaurants and things to do, places to hike? Since I'm into hiking and running, all these things, are you going to start looking into that from home before you ever go? Let's kind of get familiar with the area. Are you going to look at the college websites and all the things? Did you stumble upon something you liked and you liked what you saw?
Mm.
That's what I wonder. Because you bought the K-bar
Yes.
in March.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that.
He
Oh.
bought the K-bar
And
in March, and then he moved to Pullman, or I'm sorry, he moved from, he bought it in March while he was still in Pullman of 2022. Then he moves to Washington in June of 2022. Then the murders occur in November of June of 2022. He honed in on those girls in that house super fucking quick.
right.
So I
I mean,
wondered, that's when I wondered, I tried to put my mind in their mind for a minute. What would I do? How am I going to do? What would you do? I would go search this new area I'm about to move to and figure out all I can. Where's all the, because I like the outdoors. Where's the lakes? Where can I go fishing? Where's all this at? Where's that at? You know what I mean? What restaurants are where? Did he do that? And he stumbled upon something he liked while reviewing vegan restaurants where Maddie Mogen worked, maybe?
I guess all of this stuff is why the trial is
Right.
estimated to last for so very long, because all this stuff which we don't know yet, which obviously the prosecution is going to hold hold a lot of it close to the vest, this is
Right.
the stuff that's going to come out. If
And
it's
so
in
far,
fact,
though, we haven't heard anything in documents about any sort of evidence based on, like cloud documents, other than the DeSales paper that just came out in this, like I said, the phone, the car, and the sheep. We haven't heard anything else like I was just describing, like, did he do searches upon the area before he went? Did he start, if he did follow any of the victims, when did he start following them on social media? That's what I want to know. If he did, and they can prove he had an Instagram or whatever, and he was following the victims, or at least one or two, when did he start following those victims? Was it before he moved to Washington or after? I'm so curious about that for some reason. I can't help it.
no, I think that's all really going to be the support. If that information is there, that's all going to be what bolsters the state's case beyond
Right.
the PCA, because in the PCA they put the pertinent stuff that warrants
Yep.
the arrest, and then they don't, unless the defense, if that stuff's incontrovertible or can be argued
Mhm.
out with examination, cross and direct examination, then that stuff, that's what comes out in trial.
Well,
So
people said this was a very weak PCA. It make sense. I don't understand. All these things are
I
being, and
didn't say
I'm
that.
thinking, I was thinking to myself, what do they don't understand? It was pretty black and white. Now you did have to sit down and write the car times down on one piece of paper, and on the other side of the paper, write down those phone times. And oh, lo and behold, look, they match. What phone evidence they did have matched what the car sightings would be, right? But it was a compelling PCA compared to others I've read, so I didn't
Yes,
understand why people were saying it didn't make any sense, and that it just, I couldn't, maybe it was too much for them. I don't know.
could be, or perhaps it's that sort of unwillingness to distrust in anything, just to be sort of oppositional and
Yes.
dissension
Hmm.
for the sake of it, rather than actually being
Yeah.
objective and using their critical thinking skills. All right, so that's a good
Yeah.
segue. Let's have a look at this last. I just already did all this. This is the one, I think. Oh no, wait. Oh my goodness, Lisa. Yikes. No, it's this one, I think. Yes. That. Okay, so we are talking about now, well, we aren't. Anne Taylor is going to argue that the Amazon AI shopping cart struck again.
Opinion. All right. Amazon click activity.
Oh no, it's not Anne Taylor. Who's this lass? Elisa. Is that right?
Judge, this issue really ties
Yes.
into what we've just been discussing, and I think is illustrative of the problem. So when motions in limine were due, we had notified the court that we didn't have expert disclosures on opinions on Shane Cox, who was going to be their Amazon expert, and Michael Douglas, who they had listed also as having information about Amazon. So when we raised the issue with the court about incomplete disclosures, like Ms. Taylor was talking about, we still didn't have those at the time that it was time to file a motion in limine. So our motions in limine. So the motion in limine related to Amazon Click and Amazon Records has to do with a lack of disclosure. When we filed the motion in limine on Amazon Records, we then got supplemental disclosures on Shane Cox and Agent Douglas, but not with any opinions.
Are they expert opinions or witnesses, or are they just fact witnesses to say, here's what the Amazon records show?
Well, I'm going to explain why it falls under expert opinion and what we've come to learn in trying to figure out what this data is. And I'll
There may
talk.
be some rebuttal stuff in there based on your disclosures in terms of why the Amazon data, as I understand it, you're saying shouldn't be relied upon or admissible because AI made me do it.
Well, I think it's a broader explanation than that. But the issue is that we had received this.
This judge is just great. He just shuts their hyperbole and their bullshit down, doesn't he?
Yeah, I mean, it's really good. I mean, it's almost like it's funny that he's acting this way. You know, people are going to see it a certain way and all this stuff, but it's like it's his courtroom. He's in control. That's what he's there for, literally. Take control, go by the law. You know, and they step outside the law. It's his job to step up and correct them. Either way, good for either side. You know, so I
He's
don't
just
see
no
him as
nonsense.
biased.
He's just shutting down the. I don't see any.
Yeah,
This thing is, these are all defense motions, right? I think almost all of them defense motions. So he's going, and they're the ones arguing their motions, right? So then obviously he's going to address them. I feel like they're kind of nonsense, a lot of them, or
exactly.
they're problematic, right? For legally. And they're making them more, and the judge comes to this, Hippler comes to this in a little bit, where he says, I think she says something about the worldview, and oh my goodness, and he's like, I just
She's
don't think
been talking about stuff like that for a long time. There was at one point she was trying to talk about DNA, and she was like, "Is society ready?" She was trying to guilt trip us, basically, that society's not ready for this and that. I'm like, well, Ann Taylor, you can't speak for all of society. Stop it. You know,
exactly. It's very
So
condescending. It's very condescending. It's very patronizing to
yes,
suggest that we the people are idiots, basically.
exactly. Thank you.
Data and without expert opinions to explain what the state intended to do with it, it left us in a spot of trying to figure that out.
How was it vague what they were trying to do with the Amazon records? It was
And
pretty-
says, I'm going to use the AI excuse next time my husband asks me about my Amazon purchases.
Right?
I
Do
know
it.
when I get a notification on my phone to say, "Oh, your parcel is being delivered today," I'm like, "What the fuck did I order this time?" Like, it's almost every day. I'm like, "Wow, I'm like,
What?
cool."
Yep.
what the relevance of those
They're
were.
not facially evident, Judge. We have an Excel file that has a ton of names with metadata, and then we have what is known as an Amazon click packet that the state has produced, we think from Shane Cox, that has a sheet that talks about specific purchases that include the knife, include things like the gift card that you were just talking about, but without any context. And our hope was that with expert disclosures, we would understand, was there going to be testimony from them that somehow there was information on computer searches specifically from computer examination, or the context of what metadata might explain about the click pay documents that they got. We now have some information because we have got an Amazon expert who has explained to us what we have and what we are missing. Obviously, the evidence is important to the state's case related to the Amazon information. And given the court's direction about its intention for us to call experts today, which Mr. Howell is available, we went ahead and submitted a declaration when the court said that you were disinclined to allow testimony, and we sought leave, but we didn't get a solid answer. So you've now got an affidavit in front
A
of
solid
They must,
answer.
and the defense, they throw a lot of shade at the judge. Like, I mean, you haven't ruled on this, sir.
Yes.
Your
Yeah.
Honor, we did ask. Like,
And they received a packet, they're getting labeled packets from the prosecution all of a sudden, with the click pay and the click this and that. So what she said, there was something that their Amazon expert says now they understand what they have, but there's something missing. Well, what part's missing? That's what I.
and look at the judge's body language. He's just like, ugh.
He's so over it already.
He's like, oh, let's make it stop.
front of you declaration.
Typically in motions in limine, I'm not being in a position to make factual credibility findings and the like. And so the testimony on paper is more than adequate to guide the court.
Okay,
I can
I
read,
appreciate that. So I'm
ma'am.
going
I
to
can read,
explain
ma'am.
then what the basis is for where we're at. The other issue that of course the court knows is that we sought to seek suppression of the Amazon records because the warrants were extremely broad. We expected to be getting significant data or have data that we hadn't yet reviewed.
Interesting when they cry broad warrants and then they also cry warrants were far too narrow. Like it's
Yes. Isn't that crazy?
it
It's
is
like make
crazy.
up your mind. Make up your mind.
Reviewed. The court denied that suppression issue. And so what we know that we have now is the list that I explained, but it's without metadata. And so for the purposes of what we've got going on here, there is, pursuant to Rule 106, a whole level of context that's really important to the Amazon data. And it's not just AI technology, it has to do with machine learning. And I think a lot of this is something that
AI.
Pardon?
Isn't that AI, machine learning?
So they're
He laughed
missing
at
the
her again.
metadata.
I think that machine
So
learning, I'm definitely
they're missing the metadata on the way AI works in the machine learning. Well, the machine learned because your client searched for it.
Right. And even if he didn't, let's just suggest here, we all know that our phones also hear what we talk about because
Exactly.
I've had things come up in my Facebook and on my in my YouTube feed. Actually, I have premium, so not my YouTube feed, but on my Facebook and suggestions even in Amazon of things that I haven't actually physically typed, but I've spoken about with someone
Right.
around me. So
I've
perhaps.
said that. But so
Mm.
there, with that said, because I've said the same thing, you can just talk about it, and the next thing you know, you're getting fed these ads for that, right? So who did he talk to about a knife?
Mm-hmm. Or
Oh,
perhaps he's like me and he speaks to himself, first sign of madness.
I'm a
But
girl, right? Talk to somebody with some sense. Talk to
I always
myself
say
all the time.
sometimes you need an expert opinion, Salty.
And
Absolutely.
there's two of me in here, so I'm
not
always conversating with myself.
an expert on this, Judge, but I've provided you with a declaration. And if you want me to put Mr. Howell on to testify about
That's
the
not
difference
important.
between, he's far more articulate at it than I am. It's a combination of both with what happens with Amazon. Because in terms of machine learning, one component is that when there's a household account where there's multiple users with multiple cell phones and multiple laptops going into purchases, there's machine learning and cross references there. In terms of the way that
So wait, Salty, when did you
So
say he moved across? In June. So what, his parents were searching out K-bars and knife
I was
sharpeners
about to
in.
say, so I was about to bring that same thing up. So apparently she's going there. But here's the thing. They also stated during this hearing that the parents support him. The family supports him. Hardship will be on them to get to trial. But the state also plans to call one or more family members to the stand. So
Mm.
I think one of those is the sister. We heard things about her early on in this case. We've always suspected this sister of knowing or having a gut feeling, right? And so, are they going to say she's the one that searched for them? Are they going to throw mom and dad under the bus and say Casey Anthony's defense
I
did
was about
that?
to say very Casey Anthony of them.
Remember
Yikes.
the big deal about the family computer searches and shit?
Oh.
How confusing all that was, and the damn experts trying to go back and forth back in the day about this technology that none of us really knew what the hell anything about it to start with, know? Yeah,
Yikes.
right.
I mean,
So
it
who
casts
are they going to
visuals
blame
out
for
there.
these searches? If they prove
Mm.
it came from the family computer, but they can't prove it was Bryan, then who do they suggest it was?
Interesting. This trial is going to be riveting and all
Yeah.
consuming.
Yes, it is.
that Amazon works as a company globally and artificial intelligence, they're doing all kinds of things to understand
Putting shit in
what
carts,
consumers and
buying them.
purchasers and sellers are trying to do to actually prompt people to buy certain things. So in this instance, with regard to these purchases, we have very limited data regarding Mr. Kohberger's purchases without the metadata and the context. And that's the reason that we are seeking to exclude it. Now,
Ma'am, before the judge has his word, ma'am, I'm sorry. The context is like somehow Kohberger purchased these items and then somehow identical items were used in the commission of this brutal crime. And then somehow Kohberger's DNA was on the sheath of that knife.
The same exact one.
Too many things, says Akasha. Too many things, ma'am. Please.
Yes. Yes.
Please. Let's see what the judge has to say because he ain't playing.
You got what they got, right?
not really, because what we have is we know that they're going to draw conclusions.
Hi, Holly.
And that they're going to draw conclusions about intent, but the way that they've presented it to us in data is that this relates to Amazon clicks. Well, Amazon clicks makes it sound like to me and you, someone goes
right.
on and actually, with a mouse, clicks, opens a document, takes it into a cart, purchase it, and it's a much broader term than that.
And the state's testimony from their person who will testify that this is what the Amazon data shows is that Amazon data shows that Mr. Kohberger, or at least his name, purchased the knife sheath and cleaning thing.
Oh, damn.
Knife
There you
sharpening,
go.
Pardon me, equipment. And looked as anybody who orders on Amazon does, where's it at in delivery? And then later on that same account, after the homicides, looked at knives again. Now,
Oh,
I
shit.
understand the defense's position and evidence and expert to be that, well,
Yes, Salty.
He just what he just said he has seen in the evidence. So Bryan Kohberger purchased it. Not only did he get the K-bar and the sharpener, but a cleaning cloth as well. And it was ordered in Kohberger's name. The judge just laid
he
it right there.
And he also said that it appears that Bryan Kohberger or somebody checked from that account, checked on where the
And check
packages
where
was
the delivery
in
was
the
at.
delivery.
Yeah, where's my knife? Is it here yet? So from what account? Who checked it? From his phone, or did that come from the family computer check? Or did he check it? Because my son, I live with my son to help with my grandson, so he has an Amazon account, and I'm on the account, but our stuff is separate. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
If I
that's what
order
Rachel said.
something, right, it's got my name on it. It comes to our shared address. It comes from my phone where I order it from, and I'll do it on the computer. And it paid for with my debit card. Nothing to do with my son at all. It's crazy.
Judge knows what's what. It is crazy.
Yeah.
that's a shared account, and anybody could have done that on that shared account.
But
I don't know that that's a matter of exclusion, though. Isn't that a matter of just impeachment and cross-examination and your own experts?
That if the court doesn't exclude it, then that would be the remedy and the approach that we would
Would it ever
take.
be the remedy of exclusion?
Judge, if you don't exclude it, then that would be the alternative, I guess.
What basis would I have to exclude it?
I started with that we did not have expert opinions at the time when we had to file a motion in limine regarding this data, and it's misleading that the way that you just portray it, that because there is a purchase in a household account, that is automatically attributable to him, and that there's somehow
Purchase in
intent.
a household account. It's attributable under his particular name in the account, as I understand it, Now,
Oh,
could
damn.
somebody else in the family get to it? I don't know. I suppose your expert will tell us that. But I'm not sure how that is excluded, and I'm not sure how that's expert testimony. I understand you have an expert to say, well, you know, all these other factors.
Like Micah says, there's a whole lot of word salad going on there. She's saying a lot of words, but not saying anything, right?
Right. I mean, you want it kept out because it's your client did this purchase in his own name. The judge has said it multiple times now, but okay, it's in his name. So what the hell, lady? You know, you're playing word salad, right? She needs some dressing. She needs a big old bottle of dressing, y'all.
Factors come into play, and all these other things could have happened, and okay, you can put that on, but I'm not sure why that excludes the state's evidence.
Well, it would be extremely misleading, given the declaration that we've put before the court about everything that goes into the way that Amazon
You're
functions.
asking me to be the fact finder again.
That's the jury's job.
I mean,
I'm not
Amen.
asking you to be the fact finder. I'm telling you that when we don't have complete disclosures and we're playing a guessing game of what this
The judge
information
is
means,
like, oh.
and we have deadlines where we have to file motions,
He's got a
then we
headache.
end up in this circular situation right
You're
now,
making it
right?
circular.
Because we had to file a motion about this without knowing what the opinions are and what we're lacking in data. Now I have an expert who's explaining it. We've asked you to exclude it. You're indicating you don't think it's an expert opinion. And so then the next logical step would be our expert comes in and we're allowed to confront the evidence. But you also just proffered that, you know, that based on the information that you understand, that equates to a purchase. And I've put a declaration in front of you from an expert that says that Amazon doesn't work exactly that way. And that's the problem, that when it is represented as a click, that indicates to the average person that he sat at a desk and clicked and made a purchase when there's a lot more to that.
and maybe I'm
How much more
completely out
to
lunch,
that?
but as
Wait.
I understand it, to buy something on Amazon, you got to
It's great. Wait. Sorry, what were you
I
going to
was
say?
thinking you were good. No, you're good. No, I'm just reacting to what she just said, man. I mean, no, you're good. Go ahead and let it finish out. That I interrupted at the wrong time.
No.
Sat at a desk and clicked and made a purchase when there's a lot more to that.
And maybe I'm completely out to lunch, but as I understand it, to buy something on Amazon, you got to put it in your shopping cart and hit purchase.
Oh my God, I love
No,
that.
that is a step, but how it gets in your cart and what items get in your cart really has to do with the whole model and the ecosystem of the way that Amazon works.
No,
Right?
that's
And
how
so
it
the
works.
state
What?
wants to
Yeah, it
apply
works.
in an argument, they will apply intent to purchase a K-bar,
Yes.
to
Ma'am, that's exactly what happens. On Amazon, you go like, I want that. I need that. Click, cart.
And she's just about to say it. They're going to use it to prove intent that he set out to murder people. Yes, ma'am. Exactly.
Yes, ma'am. Like,
Fuck,
yes,
to
ma'am.
for fuck's
get
sake.
to November
It's an
13th,
inference that you can draw from the
2022.
evidence to argue at closing arguments.
Boom.
But we still have to have testimony that explains those things in between.
Welcome to put on testimony that implies that Mr. Kohberger was not the one that hit purchase, or that he purchased it for a benign event, or that
Benign
here's the knife, I
event.
have it. I don't know.
And based on what you're saying, that the Mr. Cox you think is a lay witness, then I'm assuming that also extends to him not being able to testify beyond what the disclosure is as a lay witness, and no other opinions, and including Agent Douglas, who's given us no opinions whatsoever.
I don't know
Santa.
what they're going to say beyond that.
Santa, exactly.
They
Wait.
say something beyond.
Princey and I are the same. Santa over there waiting for Christmas. Wait, Christmas will come more quickly, and we can believe in Santa far more than we can believe whatever the fuck she's trying to sell us here. This is crazy.
I'm saying, I'm team. You know, when people labeled him Santa God from the get go, and I've never called him that, but right, I'm team Santa. Screw it. You
I, you
know,
know, you're,
Bill's been
you're,
laid back all this time, just
he's
doing
great.
Bill.
I don't think it's derogatory. I think it's a term of endearment when people
Yeah,
call him
yeah.
Pedro. It's just because he is so laid back. He's just chill
Yeah,
with things. He just
but
says
the
what he
well,
doesn't know hyperbole.
the what do they call them? So the pro burgers or whatever they call that,
Oh
the
my goodness.
supporters. I hate that term. I call them their support. I call them supporters, but I know that the streets call them pro burgers. But they all use it in a negative way about him. You know
Oh
what I mean?
really?
I'm like, it's
See, I don't.
all the
Yeah.
time, all the time. Oh my God, he takes such a beating. Bill Thompson does,
Oh,
from the crew that supports Bryan Kohberger. Right? Him and Ashley, they're making. Oh my God, things they say about her are horrendous. Um, I don't get it. Even if I don't like the defense, I'm not about to go after Ann Taylor like that. I don't know that lady. Do you know what I mean? It's not nothing personal. But I'll make jokes about him and stuff. But like right now, screw it. I'm just like Team Santa. Go, Bill. You're all laid back and shit. I gotta have faith you got something. I'm waiting for you to show me that you do.
yes. See, I don't watch or listen to any of that stuff. I don't listen to
Oh,
either side anyway.
I barely
So
do anymore. If I do, it's accidental now. It'll come across my feed every now and then, and I'll see something. I'm like, oh, they're still at it. You know? Yeah.
Butterfly says, well, they're on his naughty list and getting coal for Christmas, and then
Ooh, there you
Sydney says,
go.
Brian is getting coal.
That'll teach them, won't it, Butterfly?
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. And hi, Missy Mayhem. Good to see you. Thanks for coming in. And Holy Street, while I think of it, guess what? I finally got up and running. My second monitor. I'm over here with two screens like a full YouTuber. It's very exciting. Let's hear what the judge had to say.
Beyond that is an expert opinion that hasn't been disclosed, then the state's going to have a problem with it.
Okay. That's why we're having these arguments, Judge. They take a lot of work. It takes a lot of energy. It keeps us from 68 terabytes of evidence. Everybody would just.
Do you know what? That's their go-to. But Judge, it's 68 terabytes. Yeah, for everybody, for both the prosecution and the defense.
Yeah.
Rachel says, people don't realize how difficult this case has been for the prosecution. This is a very small town and a difficult case. That's a really good point. It's a massive, like a horrific and gruesome, brutal slaying. But these are just regular folk who they didn't expect for this kind of case to land in their
Not
laps.
at all, right? You don't expect to wake up one morning and find out that 4 of your college students in your college town are brutally done this way, you know? And then how quickly it would become a high profile case,
Mm,
right?
mm.
You don't, because you never know what's going to be the next high profile case. What makes a case high profile? Do you know what I'm saying? Is it media attention, social media attention? What causes it? There's no telling what the next case will be. But this one certainly got there quick, you know.
Right.
I
I
think
guess it's
because of
got a
the
lot.
brutality, you know, and the small
Yep.
town, and it was
And
shocking.
they were
Yeah.
beautiful young people, that
Yes.
stereotypical
It made you
single white
wonder
female.
what happened, because I remember the day that I heard about it was back when I still actually used to watch the news, and I used to watch the news. I'd like to watch a lot of true crime stuff, but the news was on one day, and I'm cleaning house or something as usual, and they mentioned these 4 college kids found dead in the house. And I turned around and I'm like watching the story, and I see the house. I'm thinking that's weird placement of a house. It looked weird to me for some reason, and I
Mhm.
couldn't make it make sense in my head at that moment. It was like just weird. So then days later, I hear a little bit more on the news, a little bit more. Then we heard that there was a surviving roommate, and I'm like, my first thought was, where was she? Were they all
Mhm.
asleep? Because at first I'm thinking, what happened in that house? You know, was it a love triangle deal, a fight between roommates? Who the hell knew, you know? Somebody broke in their house. I mean, I don't know, drugs. You don't never know when it first happens. But yeah, then I don't know, it just spiraled, and it kept, social media didn't make it just blew it up. It was crazy. And now,
Crazy.
here we are at this level with it, and the fighting the legal battle is what I'm here for and was waiting on to get here finally, because I want to see how they handle some of this evidence and the technology part, because of him being of what he studied alone, forensic data and cloud-based data, and wanting to apply for jobs in Pullman to help rural community law enforcement to learn how to do this better. And he was turned down for that job
Mm.
once he moved to
Galen,
Pullman. Yeah.
really. Galen says the prosecutor was supposed to retire just a few months after this crime, so he decided to stay on to help with the rest of the prosecutors.
Yes.
Like that's your true sort of
Yeah, y'all come into my
crusader. I don't mean
town,
that.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you came into my town, you did this, and I think a lot of people miss that sometimes. It was like when they wanted to change the venue. I get it. There's other cases that never get a change of venue. This one needed it just to shut the people down that were saying he wouldn't get a fair trial in Latah County. Maybe he wouldn't have. Maybe people there are biased. You came into our town, you did this to our friends. Fuck you. You know what I mean?
And
I get it.
destroyed the feeling of safety and sanctuary in a
Yes.
town like that, a college
Hmm.
town. Like, how dare anybody? It makes sense that that there would be a somewhat of a proverbial lynch mob, kind of just wanting anybody to be
Yeah,
held.
and then all that they went through, the town itself, the kids that knew the victims, all went through a pretty good torturous experience on social media. They were doxxed. Like, I saw it happening in real time, and I'm thinking, whoa, they really went they went to great lengths, and it's still happening. They're still talking about a lot of those kids. So,
Yeah.
it's crazy. And, I think that's, I get digging in and all that good stuff, but sometimes you don't be crossing lines, you know?
No, but I think again that whole online keyboard warrior kind of behind
Yes.
the perceived safety of, there's the fourth wall of the screen, but no, these are real people. This has affected this whole community will be forever scarred and traumatized from this, and
Mhm.
not even talk about not to mention the young people who are still in the house and
Well,
survived.
exactly. You got your 2 surviving roommates, and not to even forget, Ethan Chapin was a triplet. So
I
now they're down.
know, I know.
So then those 2, Macy and Hunter, returned to Moscow and went right back to college.
Mm.
And he was also a member of Sigma Chi. There's a photograph on their mother's Instagram of the 2 of them standing on the deck of Sigma Chi, and in the background you can see the King Road house all boarded up. And the strength of those 2 kids, and you know why they're strong? Because of the strength of their mother.
Mm.
Stacy Chapin is one of the strongest women I've ever seen handle the death of her child, and I know because I've been there. And people gave her a lot of criticism because she didn't seem to care enough, because she came out strong, and that was just her way of handling it. Total opposite of Christy Gonzalez, right? You can't tell a parent how to react or how to handle it. I give Stacy
No.
Chapin a lot of love. You know what I mean? They have all been through a lot. My God, it's their children. But for those
Mm.
kids to have to go back there and go to school and live in the community, they know all that's been said about all their friends, all of it. So it's just, I don't know when if it'll ever get better for all those people.
I mean, marginally better, I guess. Time, and yeah, but you don't get over
Well, they've
this.
done they've had Stacy Chapin's way of healing is very different than what the Gonzalez way of dealing with theirs is. And in the beginning, she did say she wasn't going to the trial. And she made the comment publicly that it wouldn't affect the outcome. And boy, she was ripped apart for saying that on social media. And what she meant was her being there is not going to affect whether he's found innocent or guilty, right? That's what
Mm.
she meant, not anything else but that. Now, recently, she's come out and said that she's had time to sit with it, that she feels like she needs to be there to be Ethan's voice. And I had a feeling she'd get there eventually. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So I still don't know what her final decision is on that yet, but that's where she stands right now.
Yeah. I mean, she may well go back and forward through. I mean, that's
Yeah,
similar to the grieving process itself, isn't it? It's
exactly.
steps forward, steps back, and yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, you do. And
We
Sorry, go.
no, you're right. Go ahead. Go ahead.
We've got. We'll just listen to the rest of this
wouldn't be
circular.
having this
But I
back.
think
Wait, she's gesticulating a lot to try to get buy-in from the judge, and he's not buying what she's selling.
And forth,
the problem
Yeah.
is you view it as a more complex issue than the state does.
because it is.
Well, that's not their worldview, okay? And that's the factual dispute that the jury gets to decide.
So what we're trying to do is make sure that their myopic worldview is what they're held to, because there is a much bigger picture to this evidence. Okay.
Judge, this is pretty simple. Shane Cox and Mike Douglas, since he gets brought up, they're fact witnesses. They're not going to have opinions. They review records. They're going to testify to what those records show.
Boom.
Shane Cox's testimony is laid out in the supplemental amended disclosure. This is exactly what he's going to testify to. And what he's going to say, he's very careful in what he says that he's going to say. That's what we're anticipating. There is no grounds to exclude his testimony. We applied for and we were granted a search warrant for Bryan Kohberger's Amazon.com user activity. The search warrant was narrow in scope to items related to the homicide and evidence related to the seizing of knives. In this case, it was knives and knife accessories. It directed law enforcement to see certain items. His
Okay,
customer
so
click
hang on one
activity
second.
pertaining to knives and accessories. His payment.
It's- That's the second. Okay, so she did say that's what I thought she said the first time I heard it. Looking for the click activity into the seizure used at the homicide and the seized knives. There were 3 knives listed on the search warrant returned from Pennsylvania. And like I said, the very top line, number 1, it just says knife. The other 2 knives have a description of what kind of knives. One's a pocket knife, Smith & Wesson folding pocket knife. The other one is I forget the name brand, but it's a kitchen cutlery type knife. But the very first one just says knife, no other description. So are they also looking for knives they got from the home to related? Did he get? I don't know. And now my brain's going. Okay, go ahead.
But no, where's your brain going with that? So you're thinking maybe he had extra knives just in case one.
I don't know.
Tip snapped off one or something.
I don't know about the other knives that were on the list because of their Smith & Wesson pocket knife. In my neck of the woods, that's a common thing, right? The cutlery knife, I don't get. That's a cutlery knife. Okay, I don't really, get it. But that first one, that just being a knife, I wondered, is that the knife, right? Why is it non-descriptive? Why does it not say K-bar? It doesn't say anything but knife. Butter knife, kitchen knife, steak knife. What are we talking about here?
So there's no K-bar.
don't know.
There's in those 3 itemized things. They don't. Not one of the 3 say K-bar. Is that right?
None of them.
Interesting.
No K-bars. They have not found the murder weapon yet, allegedly, that we know of.
Goodness. Micah has a Smith & Wesson pocket knife. Micah, is there something you're not telling us?
Payment method used.
Micah.
Details of items in cart, including all items added to the cart or removed from the cart or wish listed or in a shop.
So what she's saying is they know all of the things. They know what was on the wish list, what was in the cart, what was taken out of the cart, and what was purchased from that cart.
So I wonder, did he have his knife sitting in his wish list for a hot minute and then he finally went for it?
Pondering on it. I do that myself, not with knives,
Right.
but with other things in my
Right, you might save other things and you'd compare it later to something I get it, right? So he's over there wish listing his K-bars. Dude.
Good point. NR says, I wonder if the cutlery knife was taken because of where in the home it was located, i.e. in the bedroom.
Right.
Yes, right.
It would have had to have been, right? Don't you agree? I
Mm.
would say so, because they have to have a narrow, I mean, you have to be real specific in those search warrants, and there's that community area, right? And that iPad that they did take, apparently that was found in the community area, but it is believed to be Bryan Kohberger's iPad. And we know that when the phone came back online, once he came out of Moscow, 2:48, I believe it was, a.m., 1 minute later, he was logging into a account via an iPad. And we don't know why. What was you doing out there, buddy? All of a sudden, you got phone service and you're logging into an account on your iPad.
And only one iPad seized in the search warrant, even though it was from a
Yes.
common area?
Yeah, and there were several computers taken from within his space in his room, I'm assuming. A couple of laptops. I believe there was a computer tower in the apartment in Pullman, but there was several. I've got the list in my Discord that I can pull up one day and we can go over. But yes, they took several laptops and things of that nature from the home in Pennsylvania. Now remember, he lived there all his life. Everything was there. All those they took DeSales documents and everything from that home. So a
So
bulk of
that's what
his life was all
yes.
there. Huh?
So that's what they do in trial, though, right? We know the bare bones of things, or not even
Yes.
all of them, but with that sort of these sort of publicly available documents, particularly
Mm-hmm.
in some states, and then at trial they weave all that together and
Yeah.
hopefully,
And,
if the state does its job, and makes
and
all
there's probably stuff that was taken, item C's, that may not be relevant at all, right? If they can't, let's say the clothing, for instance, if there's nothing on that clothing, no fibers, no hairs, nothing that can tie that clothing to the crime scene or to the victims, who's to say that that's the clothing? Do you know? Unless we know they had a Walmart receipt and a Dickies clothing tag found in Pullman. Odd things to leave behind, almost empty apartment, but okay. So, I don't even know if he has the clothing there that he wore. So we don't really know page 118 of this underlined page, would that ever come in? What does that even mean? These notes that were found to Dad and the one from Montana, what do they mean? Will they even come? I don't know. There's so much that from the warrants that may not come into play at all. But there's a lot that will. So.
Colors says it's a circumstantial case. I don't know about that when there's DNA on the knife sheath. I think that's direct evidence right there. I mean, there's a lot of circumstantial supporting stuff, I believe, but I think there's actually going to be a lot of direct evidence.
I think you're right. I mean, of course, the DNA on the sheath is direct evidence. People can say that they can have the argument of touch transfer all day long. I'm a pretty intelligent person. I understand touch and transfer. I get it. But if we're going to go with transfer, then tell me how. Did he go to a knife show, handle a couple of knives? I get that, and I can take that, but I need to know when and where.
Yes,
things like
Colors,
that.
Salty's doing a distinction between touch and transfer because that was one of the motions in this 9-hour marathon of motions hearings on the 9th, was that the defense wants to preclude or exclude anybody from using the word touch DNA, and they want to call it transfer DNA.
Yeah.
But it's hard when it's the common vernacular within the profession, and it's. I don't. So what if the expert then refers to it as touch DNA, are they going to call for a mistrial? Like, come on now.
Well, isn't everything transfer DNA then? And let's not forget, now it's a movable object. So here's my theory. So any crime scene from now on in the future, if there's a movable object found that could be a murder weapon, that could contain single source DNA, we just totally discount it because of those two reasons. It's movable and it's transferable. Again, I know of a really big case where they proved how the transfer occurred in the DNA, and they had it all wrong. They had the wrong guy. So Anybody who wants to scream he went to the grocery store, you know, and touched a box of cereal and put it back down, and Mary Jo came up behind him and bought the damn box of cereal. Then she went home, drove all the way home, put her groceries away, went in her room, got her K-bar out, transferred Kohberger's DNA to her K-bar, and then she went to Moscow and unalived 4 kids and forgot her sheath. And nobody's on there but Kohberger's.
That's the thing.
Okay.
If it was just the touch DNA, like what Akasha's been saying, it's the totality of all of these small pieces that build the case beyond a reasonable doubt. If the prosecution can pull it all together, and I have a feeling they will. So touch DNA or any kind of, I mean, yes, in their separateness, all of these little bits and pieces may be controvertible, but I think when you put them all together, it feels to me like a pretty strong case. If you look at them all. Kylie, hi Kylie, says, I will say based on the new science, touch DNA is a bit of a misnomer and lends itself to be more conclusive than it is. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I guess maybe it's like changing the verbiage around ASD, autism, and God forbid saying Asperger's still, Judge.
Yeah.
You know, like is it just verbiage, or is it actually
It's
the science?
verbiage, you know. I think that's a part of the defense's goal is to confuse with verbiage, right? They've gauged social media. Social media was talking about this transfer versus touch a long time ago and brought it up. They mentioned it a long time ago. That's all it took was a mention, and boy, they ran crazy with it. And there was all kind of these stories developing out there about how easy, you know, the differences between transfer and from armchair detectives trying to explain to me how that works. Now it's just transfer. But again, that makes sense to me because he had to go somewhere and touch the freaking knife at some point, somewhere at a knife show. He bought one, didn't like it, sold it, gave it away. His buddy stole it. I don't know. Come up with a good reason as to how your DNA got there. Period.
But then also
You know?
was that same coincidental knife show knife, that person also driving around in the area with their phone switched off? Were they also like
Right.
no, yeah, no.
Right. And they drove a white Elantra. Okay.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. So Holly, hi, Mr. Meathook, and then Holly, no, we've only got one stream tonight. I didn't want to have to put a hard stop on the end of Salty and my conversation because I knew we had a lot to talk about. So just one tonight, and tomorrow night two live streams. We've got the top 10 villains and idiots moments, the last of the top 10 countdowns for a little while because trial starts Tuesday in the Karen Reid case.
Yes.
And yes, and then also Holly, we're doing 10 nights of trial recap from next Thursday. Yes, Prince is on it. Coming up soon from Thursday night. So you'll get your full Camp Shorty fix then. And it'll be just Karen Reid till the cows come home, until Brennan turns into not a snake. Oh, wait. That's never going to happen. So we'll keep going with the judge here. What's he saying? Oh, someone's oh no, it's the state. Sorry, ma'am.
Shopping
Very
basket.
calm, very calm.
All suggestions made to the account. All records regarding reviews by other Amazon users, advertising data, devices used to connect to the account, and all accounts linked to the account. The state requested the data between limited time periods.
Sorry, pause, sidebar. So this is sidebar. So this is the other Santa and this lady, Ashley, are the ones that the pro Bryan Kohberger folks throw shit
Yeah,
on.
they're the prosecution, and they a lot of people refer to her as the baby lawyer. I've heard her referred to as oh God, several things, but the baby lawyer seems to be one of their favorite things to call her. I don't know.
Well, that's it's so demeaning and inferring that she has no skills. And so then
exactly.
is that the chap there behind Ashley on the top right screen? Is that the new prosecutor that I think it was Rachel or someone mentioned?
No, the new prosecutor that just came on board is a what do you call it? From the state level prosecuting oh my God, it just left me. He's from the state prosecution, like special prosecutor, but not really.
Yes,
That's not the right term either. Shit, I can't think of the name of the term that they actually go by. But anyway, so they already have one on board, and these are, I think this one will actually be coming on board to help mitigate some of the newer stuff that I just read some stuff about this. I got to get really familiarized with it. But it's a male lawyer, and he just came on board, and I think we finally got our first filing from him recently. But it was a short filing. But the woman speaking is Ashley Jennings. She is the co-prosecutor, and she's been on it since day one.
yes. So Mike is suggesting Attorney General, Solicitor General, Solicitor?
Yes, the Attorney General's office. Thank you.
There you go. Bingo. Hive mind, we got there.
March 20th to March 30th and November 1st to December 6th. Those were the relevant time periods. And in response, we got responsive data, and that's what we plan on presenting to the jury. Amazon's use of AI is not a basis to exclude, and it's completely irrelevant. AI doesn't click on things for a user. There are no legal grounds to exclude this. We ask that you deny their motion. Thank you.
Thank you. So I think there's a fundamental, just different worldview as to the relevance and impact of the Amazon data. And the defense is entitled to challenge the data in terms of, does it really show who bought it? What else did they buy? In what circumstances? I understand the state's not really going down that apart from what the data shows, which is the purchases that have been laid out in the report. If the state
Right, it's not opinion. It's just entering the data. It's entering the facts into the into the case. It's not up for. It's like well, Celebrite can be argued, I guess, an opinion depending on how they present it. Shouldn't be, but it's the same. It's data. The data don't lie, right? It's just data.
Right.
It's not an expert opinion.
It's like getting the Walmart receipt and getting you on camera at the Walmart at the same time of the receipt. You know, and so this is his Amazon receipts is basically all it is of what he purchased. And they're up here fighting it like it's the big bad wolf. You can't fight what your client has done. But like not the crime itself, but the ordering of the knife, you know? I mean, this is kind of they're not going to get this motion, in my opinion.
No,
They can dispute the expert at trial, right?
Yes.
I mean, that's what that's
they can
for.
try to. Yes, they can bring in their own expert, a rebuttal expert. Exactly, and that's what he said at the start of this, didn't he? I think it was in this particular motion.
I think so.
Tries to go beyond that without having disclosed those, or without a rebuttal disclosure to some of the things the defense has disclosed on that, and they're not going to be allowed to testify to it. But there's not a ground for exclusion because
we don't like
you
it.
have an expert that thinks that the evidence can be explained in a different way. That's just simply a fact determination for the jury based upon the conflicting evidence.
Bingo. We're done here, he says.
All right, let's take 10 minutes and then we'll see if we can't bring this home.
Okay, so we do there because the defense come up and have another thing. So, what am my mouse doing? Colors said, I thought there was odd things going on, like the state didn't have the dates, so it doesn't sound straightforward like a receipt. No, I think
didn't have the dates on the Amazon purchases.
I think they have all of that, right, Salty?
Yeah, they said that the purchase was made back in March of 2022.
Right.
According to the documents that we've seen.
Right. Salty, have you got document deep dives in your channel, in your lives? Have you got a Kohberger playlist?
I do, but it's a hot mess. I've got to get it together and better organized. I really do. I'm getting better at that. But I do a lot of, I will be actually need to work on that tomorrow. But I do all the documents, you know. Shit, there was this last document dump when all these motions and limine came out. I think Dolphin and Firefly and I did like a 7 plus hour live accidentally just reading all those damn documents, you know. But we deep dive the documents. We take a look at what's there because there's a lot of interesting things in those documents. And so yeah, it's all there. I need to get the playlist together. Y'all bear with me.
But it's there. It's there to be found on your channel. So
Yes,
if,
it is all, and
um,
it's all titled. There's, you know, and I actually need to also put together a playlist of the different hearings because I watch all of the hearings. I have since the day he made his first appearance in court. We've been able to see all of his hearings. So all the documents, every time one is there, I have it. Now that I'm streaming and everything, I'll be covering all the pretrial hearings and I'll be covering the trial as well.
ooh, girl,
Yeah,
that's,
yeah. It's gonna be an
you're cutting
interesting
it.
one. I'm cutting my
You're
teeth on
cutting it.
Lori Vallow, see? Right? And so I'm thinking since I'm doing Lori Vallow, and I want to see that through, I'm probably going to start my coverage on Karen a little bit late. So we're going to rely on you at night to give us those recaps. So that all the chat and I will be over every night getting our recaps there until I can get to it.
Lovely. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm disappointed that I'm feeling two kinds of ways about it. I'm disappointed that I won't be able to cover the trial in its entirety, the Karen Reid trial, but I am thrilled that the fortuitous holidays that we have coming up is going to mean that I can do at least a little bit of recapping for those 10 nights. So that's exciting. And then I'll
Yeah.
go to just consuming all of it myself and watching it all and just
Yeah,
doing
because I really do want
amplification.
to watch this trial. I did not watch the first one. You know so much more about it than I do. That's why I'm looking forward to Sunday, to having you on, to getting me and the community filled in and caught up, you know, as to what to expect, you know, because I know some, but not all of it. You know, I just know the hype stuff that's out there. So, can't wait to get your take on it. And Firefly watched the first trial as well, and she's super into the case. So it's going to be
Yes.
a good catch up with you guys to figure out
Yes.
where we're at.
Get you up to speed. Simi
Yes.
wonders, do we get to see you, Salty? And I know why you don't go on camera, but you want to tell Simi why you're not on camera?
Maybe one day, maybe I'll put a picture up of myself. I don't normally go on camera, and part of it is because I'm lazy and I'm usually in my pajamas 95%. I'm not even gonna lie. I'm in my
Oh, girl.
pajamas most of the time. My son will say, "Mom, did you get dressed today?" I'm like, "Nah. Why do that?"
Yeah.
No. So, but another thing is because of this case in Delphi, and you dig into these cases, sometimes people get real nasty and they start trying to dox you and come after you. And
Mm.
I'm a grown woman, and this true crime bit is all me. And I live in a home with a minor who has nothing to do with any of this, right? So that's part of the reason. But the main reason is I'm lazy and I'm in my pajamas.
I've got to say, Salty, this morning when I was getting myself all sophisticated, like Mr. Meathook, thank you for the compliment, said, I was like,
Yeah,
what the actual fuck am I doing on my Saturday morning at like 6:45,
girl.
getting all like camera ready, like, ugh.
Yeah. Even if I
That's what
went
I'm
on
going to do.
camera, I'm only going to be limited at what I do. It is what it is kind of thing. You know,
Mm.
I'm just at that point in my life. So it's like you
Oh,
might, if y'all do see me, I'll probably be in pajamas.
well, I'm thinking that maybe on my time because it's Easter. Obviously, it's Easter coming up, and so that's why we in Australia we have the Good Friday and Easter Monday, and I think we've got Easter Tuesday off as well. So I've got some Easter pajamas, and I think I might do one of my streams in my Easter pajamas.
Oh, there you
But
go.
I'm definitely going because with the daylight saving finishing here and you guys starting your daylight saving, our time difference is expanded to the point for me to for me to be going live any earlier Eastern for those 10 days than
Yeah.
8 or maybe 9. Plus, I'm going to wait until after the all the big guns in the Karen Reed sort of, the young jerks and the Glare and stuff have done their earlier things, and I'll slip in a bit later and catch the West Coast folks and stuff, So
Yeah.
lots of people in their PJs. PJ days rock. Yes.
I'm telling you, I love to be comfortable. That's my favorite way to be. It used to be so bad that if I got like my jeans out, my dog would know I was about to leave the house.
Mm,
Like she would start, that anxiety would set in. She's like, "Oh no, you're leaving." And I'm like, and I realized it one day. I was like, "Damn, that's pretty
Yep.
bad." I don't even get
Yep.
dressed anymore. And then it's to the point where the dog flips out if I do, because that means I'm leaving.
Yeah, my dogs in the morning are like, they know when I'm come out of the bathroom and close the doors, and they're like, oh, and I'm like, are you excited
It's
for the treats,
time.
or are you freaking out because I'm leaving? Like, either way,
Right.
sorry guys, have a great day. Have a great day.
Yeah.
And I've also trained them into their crazy start of stream behavior, because they're like, we're going to get pig's ears and she's going to give us lots of attention, and then they
Yeah.
just go and do their
That's
lazy
what I was
dog
telling you
stuff in the
earlier. Like, they probably love when you're streaming because they're like, yes, we're going to get all the treats.
They do get all the treats. So I'll be on with Salty on Sunday. We have time yet to be determined, but I think probably 11 Central worked
If
for me and
11
myself.
Central is good for you, then that's what we'll do. 11 Central, I'll set it up.
Lock it in.
Mhm.
Salty, thank you so much. I think we've been going for almost 4 hours,
Yeah, it's
and
been great.
it has been great. Feral Friday starts soonish. Wait, no, not for another hour. So you all have got time to go and get yourselves pour a drink or roll one or whatever you want
Right.
to do.
Well, there you
Have your
go. Take a
pre
gummy.
game. Yep, take a gummy. I was going to say that next. Um,
That's my pregame plan.
Yes. And I'm gonna take the bra off and take the ponytail out and just
There
put my
you
PJs
go.
on. I'm gonna put my PJs
There
on.
you
Hooray.
go. There you go. That's
Hooray.
get comfortable, girl. Get comfortable.
Beautiful. So, Salty, do you know when the next pre-trial motions hearing is scheduled for Kohberger?
There,
Is there one?
I think I thought it was next month, and then Dolphin she thought they said next week, but let me go. I had checked the schedule because they changed the schedule and canceled some of the old judges stuff and had to put in the new judge. So let me just take a look like super quick, and I can tell you. I've already got it pulled up on the computer here.
Yeah. And Chad has informed me that my time difference thing is all out, and Feral Friday actually starts now, so that's perfect timing that we're going to wrap
Okay,
it up and
cool.
we can
Yeah,
go in and
it
get Feral.
looks like April 16th. So,
Oh,
well,
so this
yeah,
week.
coming up. Yeah, today's the 11th. So we have a
Well, we'll have
motion
to catch
hearings.
up.
Certainly, I will cover that. So we have one on the April 16th, and then another pretrial conference scheduled for May 15th, and jury trials scheduled out to August. So there's like 1, 2, 3, 4 more hearings scheduled, unless they slip more in the meantime. So we'll keep you
Well, we
covered.
shall see. Lovely. All right. Well, so and chat. Make sure you go over and subscribe to Salty's Sleuth Investigates. Come on into the Laurie Vallow Daybell stuff during the day.
Mhm.
So many cases, so much happening. Salty, thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for having me. Chat, you're wonderful. I love all of you guys. Y'all have a great night.
Beautiful. Thank you, Salty. I'll talk to you offline.
Okay.
Take care. Bye. Well, chat, Steve's late always anyway, Lisa. Yes. Hey, shall we do that before we go? Because Steve is always late. No, I'm going to save it. I've got an unboxing from our girl Shunned One, and I will do that tomorrow night. We've got 2 streams tomorrow night. Thank you so much, mods. Thank you, chat. Beautiful conversations tonight. I really love that we can all just throw things into the ring and talk about things, and nobody gets all offended and shit. And it's fantastic. I love this community. What's going on here with this? Why am I like that? There we go. Yikes. So head on over to some publicly buzzed. Will be YouTube for the first little bit. and then kick. Going to get feral. I'm just in the audience tonight, not on the screen. Last week was a fucking hilarious blast. Always so much fun. Let me switch this over. And chat, I will see you all tomorrow night. Thank you for the gift of memberships. Thank you for the super chat, super stickers. I love you all very much. Yeah, he late, says Akasha. I got to change it to my PJs. I will see you all tomorrow night, if not in Feral Friday. Love you.
I love you all so very much. We had a blast, just chatting and stuff. Things may have gone a bit off the rails. Professional when all else fails. 'Cause chat is babe, so much to say. Emotes and all the caps out. May have been cheese, bit faster please. The time has come, Camp Shorty out. We're skating through all the tough things, learning about this and that, defense motions, prosecution, and narcissistic twats. 'Cause chat is babe, so much to say. Emotes and all the all caps out. May have been cheese, bit faster please. The time has come, Camp Shorty out. Community, just you and me. Occasionally, Buster and Poppy. It's the whole thing, Miss Shorty swing. Together we make each other happy. 'Cause chat is